Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the final part of this Mushoku Tensei rewatch for me and watch through for Kyle, where we're getting through season 1 and we finally made it. I don't know, introduce yourself, Kyle, or say
This
something.
is where I break in and say I didn't actually finish it. I dropped it after episode 19. Now
Really?
let's check what happened at episode 19. What would be a funny thing? Route selection. This was probably one of those boring ones, huh? Why did I drop it here, EliteAri?
Because, Pax was a rapist, and you don't like rapists.
Oh my goodness, this episode. Can you believe that one? But we're not getting into that. That was just a funny joke.
Yep.
Got him in chat. I watched all 24 episodes.
Well done. Yeah, I guess, okay, we're covering episodes 17 to 23 plus the OVA, which is volumes 5 and 6. With a lot of chapters left out, I'm sure, but yeah.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, pretty much. But I think
Chapters
we should.
left out, huh?
What do you think?
What does
Let's
that
get
mean?
into it, Kyle. Overall thoughts, or like, I don't know. You want to
Well,
talk about
last
comments or
time
something?
EliteAri,
Yeah.
we were at each other's throats. I was gonna kill EliteAri. He was gonna try and kill me. Of course, he can't because
Yep.
I'm so big and strong. The comments were nice sometimes, and a little pissed off sometimes because of some of the things I was saying. How do we address this? I have since reflected, and no, I have not changed my mind, but I have changed my verbiage. That's what's
Cool.
important, right, EliteAri?
Yep.
Now, I said even back then, you fucking pussies. We're not monetized. I can say what I want here.
Yeah.
That generic was too mean of a word, and I couldn't think of one. So I came up with a better word. It's 2 words, and it's not interesting. And then I was like, that's kind of meaner. Now, of course, we're talking about characters and archetypes here. I kept saying that none of the characters were particularly interesting, and obviously I'm a character boy. I like these characters.
Yep.
That's why Berserk's so good, EliteAri. Neon Genesis Evangelion, ever heard of that show? There's a woman in it. She's actually a girl. She's about 14. She's got red hair. I don't remember her name, though. She might be the greatest character of all time.
True.
But we're not bringing that up. I've been sworn to silence. What do you call it when there's a curse on me not to say that name? Just like there's a curse on Sai in Naruto if he ever talks about Danzo. What another great show with great characters. I like these characters is my point here. And I didn't like any of the characters too much. Now, of course, at the end of this, we're doing a character tier list, so we can get into which characters we prefer, etc. I will say this didn't entirely change. I haven't come out of this latest batch of episodes thinking now that the show is a 10 out of 10 and everything has changed. I guess that's kind of the point of that point. Because when you describe something as not interesting, but I watched like 5 episodes in a day, which I haven't done in anything forever in a long time. I think last time I was saying since Boardwalk Empire, I've never done this. And certainly not for an anime, maybe ever, and not in a long time. So I will still say that Mushoku Tensei is very fun to watch. I'm not often checking the timeline to see how far into the episode I am, and if I need to skip through. And I think I've come down on a 7.5 out of 10 EliteAri, which is a 0.5 up from what I was saying last time. But I just don't know why saying 8 doesn't fit. This has been all over the place for an introduction. We kind of addressing some things, saying some same things. Where am I going here?
I have
Jump
no
in.
idea.
What are your thoughts on all that? Are you disappointed I was not won over to the 10 out of 10 strategy? When you watched this show for the first time, were you up to 10 out of 10 already? Or did you take some light novel audiobooks to get you there?
Oh god, let me think. I don't think so. I definitely wasn't a 10 out of 10 on this anime even when I finished the light novel. I definitely am now.
That's right, you say 9 and then a rewatch you were like, oh, it's a 10, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's no question in my mind the light novel is better because I reread quite a few chapters actually for this particular video, and I was like, wow, I can't believe, like, I really like the light novel. But I think the anime is still a 10. But what was I gonna say? So what have you said? You said it's yeah. I think.
Were you expecting me to turn around, and are you disappointed in my non-turnaroundness?
No, not at all. I expected you to be pretty similar to what you're saying here. But well, it's tough. I think you're more disappointed than I am, I guess, is what I feel like like you have some, like the way you're couching you're not couching your language, but the way you're like explaining what you feel about the show makes it sound like you wanted it to be very good, but it ended up not being as good as you were hoping for. Is what I'm getting. Where you're talking about them not being interesting but fun to watch or something. Where you're like, there's a mismatch between how much you enjoy watching it and how much depth you think there is to it. I guess is what I'm hearing. But do you think that's accurate?
A little bit. Okay. I'm not disappointed.
Okay, I guess initially maybe you weren't expecting anything. So it's hard to be disappointed when you're expecting bad stuff, I guess.
What else did I just watch that? Oh, in the recent movie nights, because this is all I consume is movie nights and Mushoku Tensei this year. I have talked about being a little disappointed that I haven't seen anything that was like a 5 out of 5 in Letterboxd ratings in a while. And there was a period, probably like 2021 to 2022, where I was loving everything, and it was sort of part of the Kyle Entertainment identity. And I feel like I've fallen out of that a little bit. And a similar, like, I don't know, maybe if I had watched this show last year, I would have thought it was a 10 out of 10. Though I don't think so. I just think something weird happened there. And it's sort of we're in a bit of an identity crisis right now. And this is sort of part of that, I guess. But overall, I guess the thing to say is that there isn't that much to think about. I don't know how much I'm going to think about Mushoku Tensei now that we're not talking about it too much. It seems like, something that didn't impact me very much, I guess. And I don't think I expected it to necessarily. So I don't know if I'm disappointed in that realm. There's a... what do you call it when you have it's not a tangent, it's the opposite, that a segue here, but I don't know if you want to talk about this more. Because I have a question you got to ask me, EliteAri.
Go ahead with I don't know. Let's do our segment.
EliteAri, you're going to ask me which group of episodes did I like the best?
Yes, which group of episodes did you like the best, Kyle?
I think it might have been this group of episodes, EliteAri. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, man, those first episodes, that was fun and cozy. And then I was like, maybe the second group of episodes were the best. What was I talking about? So I guess they are sort of equal. So even that's an interesting sort of confusing question and answer. Maybe the more you remind me of what I've watched in this grouping, the more I will come to a conclusion. Obviously, there's the big episode that obviously everybody likes in this group.
Wait, which one? Wait, is it an obvious one?
The fight one, you idiot.
The literal fight or the emotional?
Okay,
okay, interesting. I don't think it's as clear as you're saying, but yeah, I think the two like clear ones that people love.
Comments let me know that this was the greatest episode they'd ever seen in.
It is. It is the greatest episode that's anything that's ever happened. But I think the Paul one is also one that people also talk about.
Yeah,
I would say those two.
But yeah, so maybe it's the best group. That's probably what we should have opened with, right? Because they want to know thoughts about this one when we kind of start with follow-up. But I guess you should start with follow-up from your last episode. We're doing fine, EliteAri. What are you talking about?
True.
So these episodes are pretty good. I don't know if the only other thing is last time people were making fun of me for calling it short, even though it's a long thing. But I still think it's pretty short. I feel like we could.
So what is? How the fuck is Attack on Titan short?
Oh, it's the shortest thing I've ever seen.
Okay, then sure. This
is like 100 chapters. What a piece of shit short show.
Right.
Vinland Saga is short. It's 200 chapters. Berserk is almost a medium length thing. Then you got Naruto, One Piece. Oh, One Piece is exactly how it should happen, where you spend a little bit of time. Obviously, they spend much more time in One Piece and all the different little locations. But we know we're going back to most of the big locations for a big war at the end. Right. So we'll see if that happens.
So is A Song of Ice and Fire short?
Oh, what a long television show it is. No, it's pretty long. Plus, we got POV characters going everywhere, so it's easy to explore.
Yeah, so
the shortness was always brought up in regards to the world building, because I wanted for each place to get their just desserts, I guess. But maybe that happens, and we're very dense with it in 26.
Yes, I think the closest comparison would be A Song of Ice and Fire, where I think I did this calculations like when I finished reading it, but in terms of the length for reading both, I think they're like pretty similar. Mushoku Tensei is slightly shorter, is what I would say. So if you think that's long and a lot can
but
happen
that
there,
shit
then Mushoku Tensei is long
That's
and a
just
lot
got
can
like
happen
3
in this.
books left. All right.
Well, yeah, sure. But if you think that everything that so far has happened in that world is a lot, then you should think that a lot can happen in Mushoku Tensei. So yeah.
Yeah, but they haven't gotten to all the big battles everywhere yet, and neither of us have read these.
So what you're saying is, so far, what's happened in A Song of Ice and Fire, you would also say that's short, is what you're saying, right?
I would say it's about medium.
Okay, so then you would also say Mushoku Tensei.
These are also, well, I guess they're not different mediums, because this fucking shit is a dumb book too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, I'm glad I convinced you, right? So it's at least medium length, right? But I guess we'll see how long it gets adapted for. You know, they cut out a lot of stuff in this. It's very fast paced, I would say, this anime. But yeah.
Yeah, kinda.
Okay, whatever.
But even now, because in my head, this big war, like, we ain't getting no big wars in Mushoku Tensei. It's all mini adventures everywhere. So maybe we ain't going to no wars. Yeah. But it seems like we're probably going to get every one of these animes has a war in it, all right? We got to see big people fighting and stuff.
Right.
But it's too short.
Right. Okay.
Well, that was overall thoughts, I think.
Very good. I guess my overall thoughts, loved it. Great stuff.
Oh, I got to add it to my media checklist, EliteAri. That's the most important part.
True. Yeah, I did add mine.
I finished an anime in 2023. Can you believe it?
Yeah, a new one. I can't believe it. No adaptations. You didn't read the light novel and then read the anime. You just went straight into the anime. What an achievement.
Oh, yeah. Chainsaw Man is this year. Can you believe that? No, it was last year, but I watched it this year. EliteAri can't believe it. He's silent.
I'm having a drink of water. Wait a minute. Oh.
He's sleeping on the job.
Okay. Should we get into it? Any other overall things, I guess, before we get right into it?
No, I think everything else is better addressed specifically in its little things. We're not starting out strong, EliteAri, so if I've built up any goodwill with my continual shitting on the show, it's about to go out the window.
Yeah. I mean. Okay. So, the first arc here, the Millis wrap-up. So, let me recap this because it's very short. We see Paul's perspective of the teleportation incident. Geese talks to Paul about Rudy's journey through the Demon Continent. Paul and Rudy talk in the diner, and then they go their separate ways, and Paul is reinvigorated to take his task force in a new direction. So, what's going on, Kyle, in this
there's a meme complaint that ties into things I've said in the past. Then there's a real complaint. The meme complaint is pretty real, too. And then...
Wait, before all this, did you enjoy watching this episode?
I guess.
Okay, so you did enjoy it. Okay, that's good. That's all I wanted to hear, right? Keep going. All right.
Let's talk about crying, EliteAri. In anime, specifically, and how terrible it is every time they're making shitty anime mouth noises. It hurts my ears. It cringes me out. It takes me out of the moment. Right. And I didn't like it here either. It's also... Now, that's the meme complaint. I talked about this in our Vinland Saga videos, Thorfinn crying like a bitch, and how the manga's better because they're not crying all the time. I famously, for everybody that knows, because I am famous, and my stream opinions are also famous, I famously wanted to make a video about how Casca sucks in all the animes because she cries, and hearing it makes Casca a dumb little bitch, when actually she's the greatest character ever, besides Asuka, you know. Oh, I said it. I think I already said it at the beginning, and then I started the gag about not saying it. But anyway. So Casca crying is bad too, so I don't like any crying. Now, usually that's with girls, because girls sound whiny when they cry. But when you just see them cry on a manga page, they look fierce, and they're not crybabies. Now, in this one, the whole time, it's just... Now, we're moving on to the serious critique here. We got the crying critique out of the way. But this is tied into the crying critique. Is it an I've seen it before problem again, EliteAri? There's something about... all the geese stuff is in this episode too, right?
This is the only episode with geese, except for the finale.
Okay. I'm pretty sure he's at, like, the beginning of the next one. No, it's probably the end of that one, traveling away somewhere. They fucked up geese too. I don't like this. I think I'm criticizing it for being melodramatic.
So you believe that the emotions are too they're undeserved? Is that what you're saying? That's what melodramatic would mean in this context, right?
It's how they're... I don't think structurally the story has an issue. I think the execution is the issue.
All
Um,
right, that's funny. All right.
the it's I guess going into it, it's so obvious what's gonna happen. They're gonna forgive each other. They're gonna hug. But it's like so. I guess I do
Is
feel
that
like
what you
it's
took from this
unearned.
episode? That they forgave each other and hugged? That was what you thought was going to happen and how you took
Yeah.
it.
What else happened?
I don't think Rudy. Like, I don't think anything happened for Rudy. I don't think Paul forgave Rudy in any way. Like, I think nothing. It has nothing to do with that. I think this is all about Rudy understanding Paul, like as a character, and trying to like make him feel better. I think that's what this whole thing is about. Yeah, okay.
Well,
I want to hear. What do you
yeah.
think? Keep going on your notes. We'll see.
Well, I don't think I have anything to say or even remember the finer details of the character stuff there. I guess that ties into your video thing about how Rudy sort of has to not manipulate, that's a bad word. Um, Paul into doing it, though that's not really what I'm trying to say.
Hmm.
He obviously is older and has more of a context to their actual situation because he knows he's an isekai man.
Yeah.
And he's older than Paul, and Paul doesn't know this and just thinks he's like a really smart kid. And this added context means that he is more thoughtful and then will understand, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I have to watch the episode again to have any examples here or to continue this conversation. What was I talking about? They cry and hug, and it's like, well, I guess what I was saying before is we go into this, and obviously it's the way the bartender also, and I understand the bartender is on the tier list because think everybody, and I know, and because when I saw it, I had this thought, and I'm like, oh, everybody likes this bartender character because he's like being a bro in this situation and helping them figure it out. And Geese is also doing that. But I hated them both more even though the bartender is a character, and I liked Geese before. But I'm like, oh, they're like contributing to this. Though I did like the Geese and Paul conversation and how they addressed it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's similar to how they had how the Horseman and Roxy addressed their issues, and I think the very next episode, even though they don't really have issues. But where it's just sort of a long scene of a character getting dressed down, and they kind of get angry in response, but not too much because it's from somebody they seem to trust and they sort
Mm-hmm.
of just take it on and change a little bit. I kind of like that as a concept because it's not the generic thing of character gets mad at person they like, storms out, and then thinks about it as they lie under a tree or they fall over, and then I don't know, generic scene of reflection. Then they come back and they have some sort of apology. It's just sort of like them talking about it, it registers with them and they think it through in the conversation. You see it as it unfolds in the conversation. That's pretty cool. I like that. So why do I hate Geese? I guess I just why? Why don't I like it? Maybe it is the unearned thing, or maybe it's the I don't care as maybe this is it. Maybe I don't care about this relationship as much as the show seems to want me to,
The
perhaps.
Paul Geese
Um
relationship, is that what you're talking about?
No. The Paul Rudy relationship. Because I think I said this last time where I was like, why does he not why does he give a fuck? But when Paul was like chastising Rudy about not caring about his family and basically caring about Eris more. I wanted him
Mm.
to go, yeah, of course I like Eris more. Fuck you guys. You ain't even my real family. Fuck you.
Yeah,
Flips him
so
off and says,
in
Eris is my
Rudy's
favorite.
previous life, he didn't go to his parents' funeral. He got kicked out of his house. He felt like a very bad person, all right? Um I think he
Yes.
I think he has an issue with Paul pointing out that he's not supporting his family because it reminds him of what the things he did last time in his previous life. I guess that's where I would take it. I don't think he thinks like, "Oh, these are my parents. I owe them something. They raised me or something." I think he's thinking, "I don't want to be a bad person like I was. Here I am in the same situation I was before. What's going on?" You know? I think that's what
Yeah.
strikes him more emotionally.
Yeah, but it's not so much striking him emotionally. Hold on, I lost my train of thought completely. So
Right.
I was just saying that I was annoyed. Oh, I guess
Last
what I was
episode, you
saying
were
was I
talking
was,
about how
yeah,
Paul, like, why does Rudy take it so
I
emotionally
remember.
when Paul? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I forgot as I said I remembered. Um, I was saying, oh, I didn't think Rudy should have had that emotional reaction. Oh, I was annoyed that he had a sad reaction to being accosted by Paul when I thought he should have said "fuck you." And this also
Right.
ties into like your blood family doesn't matter, etc. You choose who you want to hang out with more, and if Eris
Yep.
was the one you wanted to hang out with more, you got to deal with that. Paul, fuck you. This is
Yep.
not Rudy's mind state though.
Yes.
So I guess
I guess my counter to you is like what I said about how I don't think he's having an issue with them being parents. I think he's having an issue with himself, thinking that I haven't grown at all. Like here I am suffering.
yeah,
these
but I
similar
don't
things.
care about the parents.
Well, if you don't care,
thing.
if you don't care about the parents thing, you don't care about the show. And like, I think the show definitely is.
Well, no, not that I don't care about the parents thing, but that's not what made me dislike the scene or anything.
Oh, okay, sure, okay.
That's what I'm saying in context of I didn't care about it.
Yeah.
And also that's not true because I don't care about the parents that much. But
well, okay, then
if you don't, if you don't, because she's underneath the sea and stuff.
Yeah, when I say you don't care about the parents, I thought you were talking about his backstory with the parents. So. Yeah,
the old parents.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck about the parents. What the fuck? I don't understand what you mean though with Rudy's impact and how he has regrets regarding that.
Yeah.
Which is another problem maybe I have with the show, which still is the conceit conversation about whether or not it's held back by being an isekai, etc., which you did want to talk about.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can talk about it at the end, but remind us to circle back to that. I don't think I'm going to get to a conclusion with this Paul Rudy scene. It feels over dramatic.
Yeah.
I said this like 3 times, but going in, obviously you understand that they initially have the fight and they're obviously going to leave on good terms, sort of understanding each other, etc. You understand that going into the episode. And that's good. That's obviously the direction the story has to go in. Though I guess we can also talk about Paul's character and redemption, etc., because that's something we have talked about in previous episodes. You're writing this down, EliteAri? We've got several places to go after this.
No.
My tangent has gotten me lost again. Oh, I don't know. It's something about the execution. I think my perception was that the show. It's something about the bartender that's the key to all of this, EliteAri. Does the bartender have a cult following for being a bro in this situation? Do you feel this way, or is this a community feeling?
I don't know about the community. I can speak for myself, who I like the bartender. I don't like him for what you described before. You said that he was a bro that like resolves the situation, and everyone likes him for that.
Well,
I like him because it says
no.
I like him because he's a minor character that comes out of nowhere and has character to him. Where it's like clearly this guy who works at like this diner has seen a lot of situations like this and is frustrated about people who don't resolve it, and he just steps in and is like, bro, you gotta look at your dad. And that's it. That's all he says. He doesn't like give him some big moral thing about fatherhood or anything. Yeah. He's just like, look at him in the eye. And then he goes away and does his own thing. And it says, it's like this guy's living his own life throughout this whole scene. And it says a lot about this tiny little guy. You know, we haven't seen him, but he's lived a life.
Yeah. And again, and I don't even mean this in a bad way. I feel like I've seen this scenario before where there is a character like this, and I did like him.
When we talk about this, when we're talking about characters you've seen before, I think that can apply to any characters that we talk about. So I just want to know, like, why, what is it that bothers you about having seen something before? Why does it bother you when you're like, this bartender, I've seen him before, so it bothers me. So.
Well, no, that's part of why the bartender. This is a separate conversation about the characters.
Which we should talk about now. Let's get into it. Forget the bartender. Let's talk about the character.
No, we got to talk about the bartender. We got to figure this out, and then we'll go to the characters thing.
Okay, sure.
So the bartender, I think the dissonance for me is I'm recognizing things that are supposed to work, and like I've seen them work before, so there has to be an example where this does work, and I think it works for a lot of people, and it's not working for me. Maybe it's just a family reuniting thing that I don't like. Maybe that's part of it. Add that into the blend of like.
I think that's fair. I think like this, not every story element is going to reach everyone the same emotional level, right? I'm sure if this hit you emotionally, but you still had all of these same complaints, I'm sure you would probably think this is the greatest thing ever. But I think the fact that it didn't hit you emotionally is the big issue here, and you're just trying to figure out why it didn't hit you emotionally.
Well, it's important to point out
that we are like, you don't like the conceit of this like particular dynamic.
Yeah. we are working backwards here, right? I obviously watched the scene and was slightly annoyed by the crying, and then I didn't feel like I resonated with the moment, and then I'm working backwards to try and figure it out. It's not that I noticed fucking bartender,
Yeah.
fucking geese, and it all led up to it, but that is like it all obviously had an impact in the moment that eventuated in the thing. It's not a conscious thing though. We're not making arguments here. You can't argue about this. It's just my feelings, brother.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe through our continual discussions about other things, we'll circle back and I'll remember or articulate it better. Overall, this was fine. I wanted to make the mean point about crying because we've done it before and it's funny.
Yep.
It was slightly irritating on some level, but overall, it was a fine story beat.
How much does
Are we gonna go?
How much does the perception of what other people think about this? How much does that impact you? Like reading these Crunchyroll comments and seeing like what they thought. Does that bother you at all?
You said this earlier that people that like when I said which episode, you were like, oh, it could be this one or it could be the dragon one. I don't think the Crunchyroll comments were like in love with this episode. I didn't get that impression. I don't remember if I even read the Crunchyroll comments for this episode. Maybe I did. If I went back and looked at them, I would recall them. But I do assume some perceptions, usually when I'm watching things, are these fucking idiots. They love this shit.
Yeah.
I don't know if I did that for this particular scene either, though. There is actually, because I just got the episode up because I was going to scroll the comment section. Rudy has a problem with me where sometimes I do think he's corny when he's being his sort of fake, polite self. That irritates me a little bit, and that was happening a lot in this scene.
You're gonna have to expand. I don't know what that means. What do you mean by his fake polite self?
Well, when he's being his little boy self, and he's saying very general, nice, couched things. And again, it's not manipulative, but he's like, I don't know. I'd have to watch things where he's like praising somebody or something like that. He does with Eris a lot too, where something about it comes off. It's not ingenuine. It's frustratingly. It's like watching The Wiggles or something. You know The Wiggles, EliteAri?
Yeah.
Where it's like, yes, you're like the way it's said or something is like, it's like, oh, you're like talking to a kid. I don't know. There's something. Do I have to make a video on this? Is this the next appeal of Chainsaw Man explaining my problems with this scene?
I need like an example. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just trying to think.
Do you want me to watch the fucking episode right now?
It doesn't have to be from this episode, just anything. Just so I have a gist. Like, are you talking about? Let me think. Maybe my examples will be what you're talking about. So, like, is it when he's talking to Paul and he's not looking at him?
It's not
that kind of part of it.
Specific lines. No, it's specific lines. It's not like in this scene when he's talking to Eris this way.
Okay.
I have it playing in the background now, but I'll get. Well, I guess at the end it does become performative, where he's obviously like guiding his. That's what you call it instead of manipulating. He's like guiding his father through the like, oh, now you get up and you hug me, and especially when he's like, kneel down so I can jump into your arms. Oh, I hate all this, EliteAri. It's it's cringy. I don't like it. But it's not cringy in the sense that it's bad and it's making me cringe. It's cringy in, I guess, a relatability sense of like, oh, if I was in this situation in real life. It's like an actual like, oh, you touch something sticky and it makes you cringe. Not like bad show is cringe. There's something about that. Does that make more sense? Probably not.
Not really. Not about Rudius's character part. I don't know.
What are we talking about Rudius's character? Oh, the ingenuine moments.
Yeah. Okay. The corniness. Which I honestly, I just don't know what you're talking about. Corniness is not
the right word.
Okay,
though.
Yeah, maybe I've misunderstood. Yeah.
You can't misunderstand if I'm saying the wrong words, you idiot.
Right.
Corniness.
Can you give not an example, but could you like make a hypothetical where we're like explaining what you're talking about? Like
how it would apply to.
Or maybe it'll come up as we talk about Rudy throughout this, and you'll be
It's
like, "Oh,
like
that's what I
him
was
being
saying."
patient with people too. It's like you know when you explain something to somebody and you're explaining it from zero and then they interrupt you halfway through when they clearly understand it at like 50.
Mm-hmm.
Does this and there's sort of that awkward moment. It feels like Rudius is always explaining everything from zero, which is usually helpful in situations when he's explaining things to Rujerd. How the fuck do you say his name again?
Rujerd, yeah.
Rujerd, I know everything. Because obviously he doesn't understand how Rudius thinks really piece by piece, so it makes sense in that situation. That's okay when he's explaining like a social situation, I think. But then when he's explaining like emotions and how to work through something emotionally with Paul here, I guess it's irritating. Maybe.
Okay, I think
And then there's
I
like a 2-minute
understand a
sequence where
little
they
better.
cry and hold each other, and that's corny, and I don't like it.
Right. I mean, that's fine. I understand that part. That's if it doesn't hit you emotionally, then it's gonna be the worst thing ever, right? So I get that bit.
The worst thing ever.
Yeah. Well, I at least it would be for me if I was in your situation. Let me think.
I feel like I have that, I don't know if dissonance is the right word, with most things. Like, I'm trying to think, like, right now, I was like, what's a big emotional moment that I actually feel with the characters? And then I was like, man, Max in Black Sails when she's talking to Anne on the snowy bench. Like, oh, the greatest scene of all time. But even then, like, I'm thinking of like those early Attack on Titan things we did a reread for that one time, and there was like those 4 moments at the beginning where it was like Mika's scarf and then them plugging the hole in Tross, where every time I was like, this is fucking, I'm on their side and stuff like that. Right. And obviously Berserk has a lot of moments like that, so I guess there are a few. But I feel like in the majority of stories, it's usually like a little bit off for me, and it's like, I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe.
That's fine.
I don't know. I'll have to think about it more.
All right. Any
Similar
other
words to corny, banal, trite, hackneyed, commonplace, cliched.
Jesus.
Wait, how have I actually not said that word? Predictable, stereotyped, platitudinous, inane, fatiritus, vapid. What are these words? Jejune?
These are like getting worse and worse. I have no idea.
Feeble and tired. These are all the things I would describe Mushoku Tensei as.
Perfect.
Get our own comment section.
Yep.
Trite and vapid.
Yeah, people are gonna love you on this one. Oh my god. All right.
Yeah, we start off on a bad note. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, I think the next one's good though. Oh no, it's Roxy stuff. Oh, the Roxy stuff is actually
we're not up to that yet.
Sort of tie into this. So just remember to do that. We got to talk about characters and like 3 other things though. Unless you're talking about something else we got to go to first.
No, I just have a bunch of notes. So I want to hear what you think, and then we can go through my notes. So anything else you want to talk about for this scene? Well, not scene, but this episode.
No, I'm remarkably disappointed in my own performance and recollection. I should have rewatched this episode instead of watching SmackDown before the recording session.
True. Okay. I guess for me, the first thing I want to talk about this episode is the montage at the beginning, which is particularly interesting because it was an entire chapter in the light novel, and it's from Paul's perspective. So that is basically where a lot of Paul's character comes from, is like talking about that chapter. But instead what they do is they convert it into like the opening thing with him and Norn being teleported and then traveling and eventually leading to where we ended up last episode. But I thought it was interesting in that, one, it butchers Paul's character, but it does it at the like benefit of a beautiful montage that kind of conveys the point of that chapter emotionally. So I think it's really interesting, and I love the choice to do that. But a few things,
I thought it was cool. So hold on, this is like connected, but just something I want clarified for the end. That's like a mini tangent. This Alphonse prick, have I seen him before? Because I just saw him in this episode, and then I remember he's at the end, and I was like, oh, this dude's probably important at the end.
Alphonse was the Boreas butler, basically.
Okay.
So we saw him back in those early episodes, and also he is now the head of the like Fittoa, whatever, rebuilding thing. So you would have seen him in this episode. Yeah.
Okay. Now that's a tangent over. Yeah, I thought it was, I don't know, we're seeing Norn and Paul and him slowly getting depressed because he can't find his family, and then he like starts leading a bunch of blokes to get him back. So are all these people from the same region, the titty girl and her sister, and I wouldn't have known
No,
that
no,
she had a sister
those
unless you
yeah,
told me
those
last
two are
time.
rescued. And I guess yeah, I last time I was like, oh yeah, there's a thing they talk about for those sisters, but they didn't say it in the anime. Do you have any idea why she dresses that way? If there's any reason for it? I don't remember if.
Because we got fat tits all over this show.
No, well, for her particular, it was a very cute light novel thing that they should have added, but her and her sister were teleported during the mass displacement, obviously. And they ended up being like abducted by bandits and used as their plaything, is I guess the way that the light novel describes it. And the girl who dresses that way, she was able to over time slowly move on from it, but her sister never was able to. And it's a very common thing through these teleported people. Like there's a few other girls like this that are with in Paul's party here, that have been able to cope with it, and they're still traumatized by the things that happened. So like even her sister, when she sees men looking at her, she obviously gets a large amount of anxiety and feels the PTSD of what happened to her. So I think it's Viera, the girl who dresses skimpily like that. I guess she does it so that all of the attention goes to her rather than the girls around her. So that they don't feel as uncomfortable about it, yeah. So it's a really small character thing where I'm like, oh, I wish they included that, but yeah.
Yeah. I guess besides what's the rape kid's name?
Pax, Shirrone?
The one that Roxy used? Yeah, Pax, that's the one. Besides him, I don't think they've done any explicit rape stuff, right?
Yeah, I don't think so. It is, yeah, there's a lot of small details like this throughout the light novel. It is, yeah, I guess they do decide to just, like, if it's not directly relevant, it is kind of cut out of the anime.
These fucking animes, remember Vinland Saga? They all cover it up.
Sure, yeah.
I guess there's I feel like the show was just lightly implying sex with the grandfather and that servant.
Oh, they were having sex. Yeah, that was definitely right. She wasn't happy about it at the end of that scene, yeah. I remember that. I guess that would be probably the closest thing, right? Yeah. Anyway, yeah, more on this montage. So I have a few little things. I guess one other thing is the fact that this is a Paul point of view chapter, but in this introduction, they kind of also frame it as a Norn point of view. Like a lot of the shots are like focusing on her seeing Paul, which is interesting. We never get any of that in the light novel so far. So that was cool. Particularly one thing I wanted to talk about, well, not talk about, but mention how great it is the match cut from Norn giving Paul the necklace of the flowers. And he puts it on like this candle, and then the immediate next like match cut shot is to all the petals like fallen off and dead. I thought that was really great.
Make a petals joke, EliteAri. I know you want to.
No, petals. You know, some people don't know what petals are, but I would never judge them for it.
Where petals come from, they know what they are.
Right, sure.
Petal dance in Pokemon. Ever heard of it?
I don't know anything about Pokemon. All right.
That's a move.
Yeah. So another thing in this montage here is something that I also didn't realize or remember, which is that Paul constantly is seeming to be on the verge of sadness and anger, but Norn always steps in to bring him back at the right moment. And that's something I didn't remember, because obviously he looks after Norn, but it seems what they're implying in that thing is that Norn also is the one that looks after him, which is great. Love that montage. Great thing.
But the montage was cool, and I was like, yeah, we're getting...
I'm glad to hear it.
Happening? Quickly.
And I think the music that's going on during that OP is probably my favorite version of the opening. With the
is this opening changing?
Yeah, it's got like 6 versions or something. Yeah, it keeps changing. Yeah,
but it's like a similar song each time, right?
I say would change about as much as like a generic, like most anime openings would change. It changes quite a bit, is what I would say. Yeah,
I feel like at some point I realized
maybe it's the same band or something. I would assume. Yeah.
No, I'm thinking it's like the same melody with a different something, but that's probably not true. But I can kind of hear one of them in my head, so I still like the way the show does the openings. It's still way cooler than a normal opening.
Yeah,
probably.
Very true. Yeah.
Normal openings are kind of cool though.
Yep.
But yeah.
Okay. So now there's stuff going on with Paul here, which I want to talk about. So the first thing is his false and external rehabilitation. So, like when I was going, because I listened to our past discussion, and you were talking about Paul and how one thing you thought was going to happen with him is that he's like a rapist initially and a bad person, and slowly over time he's going to be redeemed through his actions and will be a good person and everything. And I think what's interesting, maybe he didn't take it this way at all, but he clearly, through that montage that he was going through there, it seems that he is doing good things now. Like, he's going out and he's saved thousands of people who have been displaced.
Yes.
And he is obviously, all of these people would respect him greatly, and they wouldn't see him as the bad person that everyone knows him as. So I guess he would be redeemed in a certain way. And I would say that's like kind of unambiguous, where it's like he is clearly a good person. But I think the whole point, I don't know if it's the whole point. To me, I guess the whole point is that that's just a false thing that everyone sees. Like, that's some false external representation of Paul that all these people that he saves would see. And he's doing all of this incredibly selfishly, basically, where he's just doing this because he wants his family. And all these people he's saving are just like things that are like he is doing things that happen on his like way to saving them. And the interesting thing is that while his outward persona is being rehabilitated and people are seeing him in a better light, he has never been in a worse spot in his entire life, basically. Like, he's failed on every front. He's not even a single step closer to finding anyone in his family. And he's probably feeling like a failure of a dad and a failure as a person, basically. So I guess that's what I would say about his journey here so far, up until at least where he talks about Rudius and decides to change what he's doing going forward. But yeah, any thoughts about that?
The trepidation regarding Paul and how it's sort of tied into the sexual / rapey, what a word rapey is. There's got to be a better word. Did somebody just join?
No. Maybe I moved my chair, maybe you heard something. Yeah.
Oh, something. I was like, Minty, fuck off. We're in the middle of something. Yeah. Oh my god, where the fuck was I up to? Oh, tying into, I was thinking about how a safer word than rapey. The sexual stuff regarding and the potential problematic sexual elements. That's my word instead of rapey. Yeah. Of the show, obviously, with Rudius's sexuality and the Eris stuff, etc., this all sort of tied into a potential problematic aspect of the show, which would be that the author or doesn't really have the same views on these things and sort of has a more traditional, like, it's not even a toxically masculine thing. It's like he thinks like, oh, groping girls is funny, Lamau. It's just like bad boy. It's funny and it's like bad, but it's like bad boy behavior, like pushing over your brother and calling him a loser and then running away is, rather than a more serious thing. So the Paul thing, because I expected Paul to have some sort of redemption, because I don't know if it was the way EliteAri was talking or if it was just obvious. So obviously you expect this arc to happen, and it's sort of like, does this character deserve this sort of arc, or has he done things too bad? And there is a more interesting question about, like, oh, is there anything too bad to come back from, etc., etc. My hesitation was always that I don't know if this show is clever enough to understand these aspects and then iterate on them, or it's just going to be a general, like, oh, he was kind of a bad dad and a bad partner, and then he goes through some trauma, and then he realizes how much he misses his family, and then he sort of is a hero in the way he sort of recollects it all, and he helps people along the way, etc., etc. I kind of think that's still what's happening. Paul is not really one of my favorite characters. I will say, when I see him, I'm not like disgusted, like fucking problematic sexual man. And because the Paul rape stuff was the Lilia stuff.
Yeah,
and this
like
sort of ties.
Yeah.
This sort of ties into the probably the show doesn't get at Lamau territory, is when, like, obviously they're reunited and they sort of hug, though it is trepidatious at some point. The point is, it's very easy to argue against what I'm saying here and just say or disregard it completely, which I'm almost certain is what EliteAri thinks. And just be like, well, I think that it, or I didn't even think about that, and obviously it is because it all fits to be. So what I just described was the negative view of it, which I think is the one I have, kind of, though I'm not too hung up on it. And there's the positive one of like, yes, he is that terrible person, but he's slowly going through the redemption. The narrative does understand that, and it is redeeming him. And even what you just said in your reading of the character is that he's still kind of a shitty person, and even these good things that are happening have happened just out of luck or out of his journey to do a selfish thing. Now, I actually didn't think any of that at all. I thought he probably does actually want to help all these people, and he is fond of the community. Because I think, and this was the same thing I was saying about Rudius last time, is that the narrative treats it like when push comes to shove in the biggest scenarios, they've sort of both got hearts of gold in some sort of regard and will do what's right deep down. Because I think the narrative might think that they're good deep down.
Sure.
Now, obviously, this is probably an easier sell with Rudius, I guess, though that depends on a very big thing that we'll get to later on. But yeah, I would bring up the Rudius example all the time of like the sexual stuff is kind of bad, and again, the narrative kind of treats it like it's kind of bad, but it also treats it like it's kind of funny, and it's again that like minor badness. But then whenever it gets into it, like he is entirely devoted to saving Eris or whatever without a second thought, and he's very motivated to do this, and this is obviously like a very noble thing. Though I guess Paul questions the nobility of that. I guess that's the end of that point. Did I go anywhere with that?
No, yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it's this all does stem to the fact that the conceit of Paul fails for you because you don't think it's very interesting. The father-son dynamic.
EliteAri.
Yeah,
I don't think I'm. I guess I'm kind of like when they re-met up, I was like excited to see how they would interact, and I wasn't that disappointed with their interactions. I was like, I am. There is something special about those first episodes where I am like the core motivation of finding the family does ring home, and when like we get to the next part and it's like, oh, we're gonna meet Lilia and Aisha.
Yep. Well done.
Oh, I'm so good. When we're meeting them again, it's like, oh, great, these are the characters from the beginning, and you are excited, and it's like a build-up and a payoff thing. But that's even the case. I feel like I buy into that stuff so easy, because even the Roxy going home thing, I'm like invested in this, relatively invested in this, et cetera, et cetera. So I think I interrupted you to say because you said I think it failed.
Yeah, which I still think that's what you think. Like, because in your mind, you like it's what you went back to when I brought this whole thing up. You think not Rudy, Jesus, Paul was going to be more of an interesting character than he is.
No, I think I always suspected that he wasn't going to be.
Right. I guess that's the problem.
I'm not really. Yeah.
Like I
wonder what it is.
I think you should have more faith in the narrative. But maybe you think now that you've seen the anime, you shouldn't. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, saying that alludes to potential spoilers, but every time I think on something you've said, you always.
Well, there's no point. I don't think.
Like,
I could probably spoil stuff now, right? I don't think you have some grand
I'm gonna
desire
watch this season through shit.
All right, sure.
I'm curious enough. If you bought the novels and sent them to me or something, I would probably read. Those fucking Game of Thrones books are sitting there.
Right.
They're probably shorter than that.
We went over this.
Like, yeah, if there was an easy way, I might say that I was going to read these books because I am generally curious or generally excited for more stuff.
I'll probably, after our talk here, maybe not today, but I'll send you a chapter to read just to compare, to see what it's, give you a comparison.
But I have to read it on a computer, EliteAri. I'm not.
I'll give you the audiobook, right? You can listen to it. That's easy.
No, that's even worse.
No, you'll do it. Don't worry.
Something I might. What was I saying before that? Oh, there's something interesting about expectations, because with the Paul stuff, I did kind of always have the expectation that this is where it was going to go, because this is kind of generally what most shows do, right?
Yeah.
But even because I was going to say, like, how come within like it's not even one chapter, and because I'm going to Berserk, but like the Black Swordsman stuff, I was not initially enamored with. I guess towards the end I was. But how come with that I did have very high expectations and I knew to have high expectations from the beginning, whereas I sort of had, I guess, middling expectations for Mushoku Tensei immediately. There has to be something towards the very beginning of, I guess Chainsaw Man is probably the better example, where I had the utmost off the first page, where I was like, oh my god, this is going, everything better be a 10 out of 10. And when that fucking father backstory shit is weird, I'm going to harp on it for the rest of my life. I don't know. It's weird how expectations are set like that and how they seem to be accurate, because I never really am disappointed in Chainsaw Man, and I kind of think it is always like that. And I'm not disappointed in Mushoku Tensei really at all. It kind of was what I expect. I guess I'm trying to say that I'm an incredible judge of character, of my perception of what the character of a show will be, because there is no characters to the show.
Or maybe your initial perception shapes the way you see things later on. I think that's
yes, that's a thing.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, that's interesting. I guess I have to think. I've never really thought about that.
So we've gone through the first element of Paul's character in this stuff, which is his external rehabilitation. The next thing, I think, which is tough because I don't know if they cover it in the anime much, so you can tell me if you think this is like coming out of nowhere, but I think it's his pride and ego. So let me read a note because I don't remember exactly what this is. During his convo with Geese, he scoffs and says that Rudy had it easy. So I think one aspect of why Paul is upset at like Rudy coming in, or not, he's not. I guess yeah. Okay, let me just keep going. Is the fact that he feels like he's trying to cope with the fact that Rudy didn't need him. I think the fact that Rudy didn't end up needing him is a bruise to his ego and pride, where he, like, throughout this whole thing, one of the earliest things we got about Paul is that he feels inadequate as a father. And I think now we got the extra element of he just feels inadequate as a man because he just can't reunite his family at all. And I feel like these two things tie into why he feels like this anger towards Rudius in not needing him, basically. So I think that's another thing. It's pride and ego, but
well, yeah, because this ties into, because Geese sort of talks him into having the realization for why that is bad, and then he has the vision of
Rudius, or are you hoping to see a dead-eyed son with missing parts? Yeah. Okay, cool. There's another element to Paul, in my opinion. And I think the whole point. Yeah, go ahead. It's very what?
This is the only way I could think to bring this up while you were saying it was going to be the meanest thing I'd ever said, but not because of what I was saying, but because of the only phrase. I think there's just a draw off where, because you're speculating about Paul right now, like I would speculate about characters I like, right? Mm-hmm. But then from my perspective, when you were thinking that, I was just like, man, I don't care or find it interesting at all that Paul can potentially have these layers.
Yep.
So there is a weird, like, hurdle that's sort of impossible to jump right now. That's very interesting to me. Of like, why? Because one of my criticism of the show is probably like, or what I would anticipate my criticism of the show to be about the characters would be that, oh, there's not that much depth to them. I'm not that interested. But I don't think that's the case. I think I'm realizing this through the Paul thing, that there might be depth there and there's clearly things you can speculate about. And I followed everything you said and was like, yeah, that's probably true. But I don't care. Now, this actually, and that doesn't mean EliteAri shouldn't talk about them now, because this is not just a one-way conversation. We're recording this for the audience, etc., etc. So that's not my point. I remember Kraftsdorf said this, and I thought it was an incredibly obvious point when he made it. And I always thought, what an idiot. But I think I just realized the profundity of his statement here. Shut up, Discord. Where he said because he likes to argue about media and things, EliteAri, and talk about it like we're doing now. Can you imagine that? He's a fellow YouTuber that talks about things. I wonder if he has a Mushoku Tensei video. I don't know.
I doubt it.
Yeah, probably not. He likes shonen anime, EliteAri. He once said that he really can't argue, like, because he likes to think things through and argue things more so than a more subjective individual like me would just be like, think whatever you want. And he said that he couldn't argue when somebody said that, like, oh, I'm not interested in it. And like, you can't argue somebody out of that point. And I always thought, like, yeah, if you are a subjectivist, that's our name, EliteAri. Probably not. That probably implies a bunch of different things that we don't actually believe. But if you believe in subjectivity and sort of how you engage with art, etc., that's how you view everything and everybody's opinion about everything relating to everything with art. But from his standpoint, which isn't really like that, he sort of this was sort of a profound thing to him that you really can't like. It's like a stopgap to all intelligent argumentation about media, etc.
Yeah.
So you're making good points, is what I'm saying, EliteAri. But my interest is not there, so I guess I just ignore it. I think.
No,
Oh,
I
I think the
completely
point I was trying to
agree.
get
Yeah.
to here is that you need the emotional attachment. Because we talk about this regarding themes a lot. Like, you need an emotional attachment and an excitement from a story to get into it to ever consider the themes enough to also appreciate them.
Yeah.
And we talk about this with the Tag on Titan, etc. So I think I'm at that standpoint, I guess. And I still think Paul is okay as a character.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What
So
complicated
yeah, I guess I have a few things.
nonsense.
So one, my first immediate thing is talking about how I made a video about the post hoc hypothesis, where I think that we initially have some impression of a character in our mind, and I think reasons we come up for why we like them are kind of trying to justify that feeling. So I guess that's my first thing. The
Yeah,
other
I
thing is
think just
that
on that, because
yeah,
I just thought about that now. Because this was, I think this was pre your time in the stream, but this was famously something Well Never Mind then accused me of, and thought it was a great own one day when he was like, "Oh, you're just post talking it," and I think I said something like, "You can only post talk
mm,
art stuff or whatever, something like that." Um, Fuck, I had somewhere to go. I just didn't want to bring up that tidbit. Um, oh, but I just because when I was explaining earlier, it was this Paul scene, and I was like, I think it is. I think rationally and consciously you post hawk it, but I think it might not be post hawk. It might be it's just you trying to explain an emotion, and you try to apply logic to it afterwards. Because when I did somewhat notice, and the waiter did somewhat get on my mind, on my nerves initially, even subconsciously, and then eventually that what does it mean when it actualizes in me not liking the big moment at the end, though I didn't really like it on all steps through. So it's sort of a build up, and it sort of affects your emotions. Then you have the emotion, and then afterwards you reflect on the emotion. So then it makes it seem like post hoc stuff, but it's really just explaining an emotion, which I don't know if you can logically do, because post hawking it is sort of applying a illogical, like it's critiquing it from a logical standpoint, the way you're doing things, right? Am I making sense here, or is this stupid shit?
yeah, it's making sense.
So yeah, I've never thought about that in any great detail, uh, uh, but I did think about it just now. So I guess
Excellent.
this is where we share our thoughts.
Well, my second. Wait, what is thoughts about what?
No, that
Oh, okay.
I
Well,
was
my
saying. Well,
second thing.
now
First thing
videos
was
are
the
where we
host
share
talk.
thoughts.
Um,
Yeah,
the second thing was talking about how sometimes there are characters where I like them, but then when someone gives me this particular reading of them, I like them more. Um, and maybe one of those is like Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars is what I think of, but I think that does happen to me sometimes.
I agree. Um, I think your Mikasa video was like that for me, where I already really liked Mikasa a lot.
Mm,
But I think it was slightly different. Like, I hadn't really thought about it in that context, and I think it just depends on whether or not it resonates with you. Now,
yeah.
trying to identify what resonates with you is probably the more interesting and obvious conversation here. Um, but yeah, I agree that there is maybe some things you could say to maybe talk me into liking Paul. I don't
Mm,
think you're crafty enough to come up with it.
no.
And I have no idea what it could be. But yes, I definitely think you can be talked into liking characters.
Oh, I wonder. I wonder what you'll think of Paul one day. I don't know. Because there's, oh man,
Well,
there's
you're just
one
going to
line
spoil
that,
things
no,
because I'm not going to do anything, apparently.
yeah.
So what if I spoil things, EliteAri says?
Yeah. I feel like there's no way you're gonna keep watching the show. But we'll see.
Oh, I'll
Um,
definitely watch it.
I don't know about that. Okay, we will stay right now. We got it on record, right? I don't
Well,
think Kyle's gonna
I
finish
have
season 2.
intentions to watch it.
Yeah.
That is true. I could just get bored, or not even get bored, but just ignore it and forget about it.
I do think you'll. I guess we'll see what you
Distracted
liked
was
about
worse.
these episodes, but I think you might like season 2 a lot more. But we'll see. I guess I wonder what you thought about the rest of these episodes. What were we saying? I'll go back to Paul, I guess.
You'll go on to your notes.
Yeah, my last
You
thing
had, like,
about
three
Paul, or
things.
my last character thing about Paul, is basically what the explicit character stuff about Paul that was like made clear in this episode, which maybe we've touched on already. But the whole thing about Rudy, thinking back to his past life, and how he had this one friend who used to see him in his early days after he stopped going to school, and they were playing games and all that. But one day he tried to reassure Rudius, but was like, "Oh, I wish my parents would let me stay home. Like, you have so much fun and all that." And Rudius snapped, got angry at him. He kicked him out, and then they never talked again. So now in this situation, a very similar thing is happening, where Rudy came back from his journey in the Demon Continent, gave this story to Paul about how great his times were to make Paul feel a bit better. And Paul got really angry because he was like, "Don't you see how much I've suffered?" So now I guess they have this whole scene where Rudy understands that, and because of that, he sees that Paul tried where he didn't in his other life. He didn't go to apologize to his friend, whereas Paul has. So Rudy tries to accept Paul.
This is
all
actually
that's the whole point of this stuff, I guess, the explicit stuff on screen. But yeah.
Yeah, we were just talking about resonation. I think, and we were talking about how this scene generally failed to resonate with me. I think is maybe the conclusion we came to.
Mhm.
On the opposite side of that, and this is actually interesting because I may have had an opposite opinion about this. A lot of the, I definitely did. A lot of the what the fuck? I guess we don't even know his real name. Real life Rudius, a lot of the stuff in this episode surrounding him, not this episode, but these group of episodes, were very resonant with me, and I thought did click on a very effective, specific, maybe specificity is one of the things I like a lot. When
Yeah,
I talk
that's a good
about
point,
how
actually.
this show is not unique in some regards. I think some of these Rudy moments, and especially these interpersonal moments where you push people away, especially when you're rather lonely, were very resonant with me, especially when I spent 3 years alone in my room trying to make YouTube videos. And there were similar situations where you sort of, there is melodrama to him, like punching him and like throwing him and telling him to get out. Like that probably doesn't happen in real life. And because last time I was mad because the bullying shit was stupid, and I did my meme bullying doesn't exist shit. I was like, that shit's lame. But this stuff, and then later and this is a much better example, and it is later, but fuck it, we'll bring it up now. When somebody's being generally, it's like a girl downstairs, and she's being very generally supportive of the idea of the man upstairs, or whatever she calls him.
Yeah.
Because clearly this is somewhat years later, and she wants to take the food up to him. You being in the position where you're in a room overhearing the conversation in the dining room when like your parents have guests or something, and they want to somewhat come and interact with you, and deep down you secretly want them to interact with you, but there's just an awkwardness that you cannot abide, and it's almost like, and your parents always intervene in the wrong way, where it's like, no, he wants to be left alone. I remember, like, we had a family friend, and they had young kids, and they would bring them over. And I think for whatever reason, my mother thought that kids annoyed me or something. So she would, like, stop them from, like, coming near my room or, like, interrupting me or doing whatever I was doing, and be like... And she would, like... I could clearly see she was doing it, and she would, like, look at the family friend mother and just, like, shake her head, like, no, don't let them go down there or something. And it's like not what I wanted at all. Like I clearly wanted this interaction, etc. And it was very similar to that scene. And they would have dinner out there, and I would overhear it, etc., etc. So that was very resonant, very specific.
Wow.
And I thought was very interestingly done. There are other shows, like I feel like Mad Men. Oh my goodness, we did it. Has a lot of like every episode is chock full of little social moments like that, where it's like, oh my god, that is exactly like situations I've been in constantly, where it's little interactions of people getting pissy at each other or having nice moments and etc. etc. Nyman is it's almost built on that type of interaction, and this was a very similar moment to it, where it's like, oh my god, that's so how life is, bro, and so relatable, and the pain, etc. Therefore, you can feel for the character is very good. And obviously, I've saying obviously a lot recently. I hate that EliteAri. But the last time I was complaining, and I've been complaining throughout these videos about like, oh, do we really need this fucking dumb isekai shit and this fucking uh, other old idiot that's apparently also the little boy? Um, and I guess that this would contradict my stance on that previously, huh? So maybe I did come around on some things, though I don't
Sure.
know. We'll talk about that more generally, I think, when we get to the fucking scene.
Yep.
Um,
Man, I can't believe
but
that
yeah.
point you brought up about Rudius. That like ties in perfect with my reading of something that happens with Rudius there, and I just never considered it. Um, but I guess we'll have to talk about that later when we get to it. Um,
Is this something we'll get to in this video, or something?
no, about Rudius and what's happening with that scene and Alphonse and a bunch of stuff. I think it's interesting, so we'll have to remember when we get to it. But we're still on the first episode of this 8 episodes here, right?
We are.
But I think we're towards the end of it. Let me see, what other notes do I even have? I guess I've just been talking about Paul, but we also get a little bit of Rudius stuff in this episode. I guess the first immediate thing, he's learning to another step of overcoming his past mistakes, is making up for, he's helping Paul like kind of get through what he never got through in the previous life, which we talked about. We also see that he has a great amount of empathy for Paul, because he truly does. He sees things from Paul's perspective, and he talks about how Paul is younger than I ever was, and he's got so much further than I ever did. So he's not just thinking about himself during this flashback; he's thinking about Paul basically. But we've already talked about that. And another thing which I'm not sure about, this happens to me every time I rewatch this scene and every time I read this part of the novel, which is in the final part. He talks about basically Paul, whatever, he has like this thing, they like hug. And then he has an internal monologue, and he talks about like, this is the and this was the story about how I like how me and my father made up or something. And to me, I feel like that's the first time his internal voice is called Paul father. And it feels like it's a retrospective kind of thing as well, where it's like, this was the time this happened, like looking back on things. But I'm not sure. So if anyone in the comments is like, oh no, he actually the internal monologue referred to him as father earlier on, then let me know. But it's something I've never been able to pin down, because it's just so much like text in the light novel that I could never like go back and look. But yeah.
I think there's something that I'm slightly still hung up with on that. And I think it might be a thematic thing of like, I don't know how much I should root for this person actually buying into this being his family. Because I feel like at some point, I feel like I'm hung up on other stories, and at some point me thinking that the theme of the story has to be that like escaping into this fantasy world is a bad thing that I don't think is coming, and I think I have to let go of. But him like basically accepting that Paul is his father, something about that is also, and it's only slightly, but it slightly rubs me the wrong way, I think.
Sure. Do you have to be related by blood to your family for you to consider them a family?
No, but
So
I think
what is
that's
I guess for me, a father would be, or a family member, it doesn't have to be a father or whatever, but a father would be someone who guides you through life, and they've helped you a lot to kind of shape the person you end up becoming. And I feel like Paul, to the audience's perspective, it's getting to that point, kind of like he has helped Rudy a little bit. Maybe not from Rudy's perspective, but certainly from ours.
I think the hung upness is like, is sort of like, oh, that previous life wasn't actually me, this is actually me. That father is not actually my father, this father is. I feel like that's sort of how I take it, and which is probably not what is happening. I don't know. There's
Okay,
I think it is hung up in the conceit thing. Also, the father
wait. Before we move on,
too.
we're gonna lose this point. When you were saying that father wasn't my real father, this father is, are you saying that the one in Rudius's old life wasn't the real one, and you're saying that to Rudy, Paul will eventually become, this was my real father? Or
I don't know if real is the right word. I think
like
it's
the one I connected with the most or something. Like, yeah, go ahead.
No, I think it's that. I think it's him. It's representative of him saying, "This is my real life, not that old one."
Okay, sure. And you're worried that the story will go into that direction more and more, but it'll be like, this is the real person I am. I just never got a chance to express it, or something like that.
I feel like it makes me think that Rudius is a little delusional. Because they kind of tease at different points in these episodes that like, oh, he's gonna wake up and he's gonna realize this was just like a dream. Which is obviously like they're playing with some meta stuff there, and that's not actually what's going to happen because obviously we need more story and we've set up stuff to happen in this world.
Right.
I don't think most isekai end with them waking up from the dream and then like making their lives better, but maybe that is because again, I've never fucking seen one of these shows. That's obviously the message to the audience is like, well, you're kind of a bum in this life, but you can be like. If you were reincarnated into a world, you'd probably imagine yourself to be super successful. Well, actually apply that to your real life and become a better person. The most direct way for that theme to be portrayed would be for him to wake up and become great, but he also fucking died or whatever. So I don't know how that would work practically. I have something to bring up about the death thing, but we have to bring that up in the last episode because I have a clarifying question. But I got distracted by thinking about it.
Yep.
But also in that last episode, it seems like we're kind of doing them both at the same time of being like, oh, this is representative of him. Like they're clearly in similar positions and they both decided to move forward, but we're moving forward in this world because it's more interesting in what the show is. Maybe I think there's sort of a conflict between the necessity for the show to continue because we all really want it to continue and for him not to wake up, etc., etc. So that's the way we're going, and whether or not that clashes with the potential theme. But I don't know.
I think what I would say is that at this point in the story, there's nothing to hint that he will wake up, or not wake up, but that he'll
I don't
go back
think he's
going to
wake up at all.
Sure.
But yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I have that's all my character stuff. I have a few miscellaneous notes basically for this, which is that I really like the small. It's not a conversation, small exchange, I guess, by Ruijerd when Paul walks into the bar and he walks past him and is like, you may have your grievances, but that only matters when your son is alive. And that's feeding into like,
but I only knew about
killed
this
his own son and he never got a chance.
Because EliteAri told me.
Oh, did I? About what?
They never, about how the spear is his son and that's actually his body or something.
Yeah.
And they never said that in the show.
Kyle,
so, yeah.
god damn. I reread a chapter. We'll talk about it maybe in the light novel comparison. You'll talk about it now. I reread the chapter where Ruijerd explains his backstory with his son. It's so good. I can't believe they left it out of the light novel, the anime. Like he talks about how like with Laplace, everything felt like a dream, and like this the spear he had was like these cursed spears were like a source of like pleasure and all the things he was doing from his perspective felt like a dream basically. And then when he wakes up and the first thing he feels is like there's something in my mouth, and he spits it out and he realizes that it was his son's hand or his son's finger or something. And the immediate thing is like his dream turned into a nightmare, and the first thing he thinks to is suicide. And like this is a great like it's not even a chapter, it's like a big scene they describe in the light novel which is left out. It's stuff like that that just makes it like the light novel so good. No, they're never gonna touch on this.
You're spoiling is what I'm saying.
Right, sure.
I feel like they have to explain it at some point, right?
I think it's all implied is kind of what they're going for. Like there's a lot of things where it's like for light novel readers, if you know the context of what Ruijerd is and you look at the anime, like the choices they make kind of inform it. I don't know. We'll never get the detail of him having the son's finger in his mouth or something, and him that being the thing he remembers, the texture. But
I'm pretty sure Ruijerd is going to meet Laplace or whatever at some point. And they're going to have a big stare off in novel 23. Maybe they'll do it then.
I guess
remember what you did.
Another detail to mention about Ruijerd and Laplace, Ruijerd and Laplace, is that I guess firstly he hated Laplace. That was he was driven by vengeance for a little bit of time. It's been like 300 years, so he's gotten over it and everything. But it's like a thing they mentioned that during the final battle with Laplace, where it was like the three heroes were versing Laplace, Ruijerd actually managed to get one hit on him, and he was like, "That's it, I've done it." Like I hit him, and it was interesting. It didn't turn the tide of the battle or anything. It was just a hit that he got in, but it was like a big deal for Ruijerd.
What's the three heroes?
So what we know about Laplace... Oh, God, I don't even... Maybe they covered it in the anime, maybe they didn't. I feel like they did.
Because there's like 12 people that beat him up, right?
Yeah, so there were three people. There was the Armored Dragon King, Perugius, there was the Dragon God European or something, and there was someone else who I don't know if they specify. These were like the three heroes who fought Laplace in the final days. And the
Wait,
armored
who was the
dragon.
second one?
I don't think this is mentioned at all in the dragon god or dragon king or god or something. European. I think it's the dragon
Okay,
god European.
so it's not the dragon dude from the end. Okay.
No. No, definitely not. But yeah, the 12 people come from Perugius. He summoned when he was fighting his 12 familiars, basically. Almanthe would be one of them. So it wasn't just 3 people, and also Ruja did show up there at
Is
some
the one
point.
that Ghislaine was trained by?
That was Sword God Galfarian. He's number 7.
Okay.
Perugius isn't even on the 7 great powers because the dragon god that we saw ended up being Orsted. So yeah.
Okay. I'm maybe keeping up.
Okay. Yeah.
So the now I'm backtracking. I'm not asking a law question.
Sure.
You were just saying because I had something and then I wrote something
Ruja
down.
got
That
a
was
hit on
the
him.
second something. Ruja got a hit on him. Fuck it. I'll just go back to this thing. With this finger in the mouth thing, do you think the tones of the anime and the book are different? Like, do you think the book is definitely darker?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, because that's the vibe I'm getting every time you tell me something from the light novel. I'm like, that is kind of cooler and kind of darker. Whereas I think I complained about this last time, where it feels like there's almost an anime sheen on everything, if you know what I mean. Where there's sort of like a it like fits like it's trying to fit it maybe a story that isn't entirely into sort of like the general anime, not tropes, but like appeal, I guess, where it's sort of like, oh, Rudius and Eris, because there's some gags that are like right out of like One Piece or like a sort of childish shonen where like Eris punches boy who talks back to her. I guess this is the most recent episode I watched, so it's on my mind. Or something like that, where it's like some silly childish stuff, which I like. I like silly childish shit. One Piece is the best. Whereas I feel like tonally, perhaps like the novel, I assume she still punches him in the novel, etc., etc. But like the slapstick way it is portrayed in anime of like, oh, it's a funny joke and like people get punched in anime and that's funny. I guess I can see where that would sort of differ from the novels, like because some dark things have happened, I guess, in the anime. But even when the rape dude is threatening to rape people, it's almost like comedically stupid.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, like this is obviously not going to happen. It does make you hate him a little bit, but like, yeah, like the finger in the mouth, like that sort of the nightmarish visual of that. Like, I don't really see Ruja in that scenario, the one I know, because he's sort of stoic good guy anime dude a little bit. So maybe
it's been 300 years.
And it wouldn't, yeah.
I do wonder if it would.
Feel so generic.
My biggest, I don't believe this anymore, I don't think, but when I first, obviously I watched the anime and then I read the light novel, my biggest issue was that it really feels like the anime was making light of situations that when I read them, because it's so open to interpretation, there's no music or anything, it just feels so much more serious when I'm reading it, and the anime kind of makes light of things. I'm not sure I believe
that's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Like the anime is slightly less serious in tone, I guess.
I guess one thing is that I felt that, what I just said about feeling less serious, when I watched the anime and then I read it, and when I got to the scenes in the light novel, I was comparing it to what I remember from the anime and being like, I much prefer this in the light novel, it's much more serious and it hits me more emotionally or whatever. But then now I'm going through it a third time and seeing the anime adaptation of those scenes, I'm kind of like, it's fine. Like, I enjoy them. Maybe I would prefer it if it wasn't there, but it's like perfectly, it's an adaptation, you know? Which is the thing that I think is interesting, which is that this, more so than anything I've ever seen, I guess I haven't seen that many things that are adapted, but I think this is an interesting adaptation where it absolutely cuts out a lot of stuff, and especially now that I've gone back and read a few chapters, I'm like, man, they really do cut out a lot. But I think it is, how do I describe this? In the same way that you think Chainsaw Man, like, didn't capture the essence of Chainsaw Man, but it like was different enough. I think this is different enough, and it also captures the essence of what Mushoku Tensei is. So I think it's a really good adaptation. But yeah, anyway. So I have a few other points.
How long are these dumb fucking books?
So I only know because I read the light novel, and each one is like 5 to 7 hours of reading, and there's 26 of them.
So, yeah. So
and I may or may not have watched them on YouTube.
Pages or something.
I have no idea.
How many? I said how many. How many pages is the first Mushoku? Oh, I nearly did a thing where I nearly Googled character names to remember who
Oh
they
boy,
were when I was doing the tier list, and I was like, EliteAri probably wouldn't like this, so I didn't do it.
probably
Because
not.
I didn't know some of the characters, but that's because I did the tier list before I watched the OVA, so I thought I'd forgotten what the Blessed
Oh,
Child was, but I
sure.
just honestly it didn't affect my
320
rankings too
pages. There
much.
you go for the first one.
Yeah. That's pretty fucking.
Hey,
Okay.
listen to an audiobook
How
1.5
many?
times it, and
No
it's like
one's listening to
4 hours, right?
audiobooks, you fucking loser.
It is funny when I hear
You-
the voice of the audiobook. It gives me such a strong emotional like feeling now that I've associated that
Yeah.
audiobook voice with the entire story. I'm like, god damn.
How many pages is a Game of Thrones? Let's compare them visually.
I
Only
feel like
six.
it's
That's like half of it. That's kind of big. I
well,
don't
I
know.
mean, you can't really compare the when you say pages, it's like a bit different, right? The text is going to be different. It's a light novel. It probably has a bit bigger of font and like it's going
Yeah.
to be way different.
There are usually some pictures in light novels, right?
Yeah, there's maybe like 5 or 6 per light novel. There wouldn't be that many, but
Okay.
yeah. Anyway,
Probably bigger than the Annie Mikasa one, and that's 2 in 1. And I feel like that took me like 4 hours to read 10 years ago when I read it.
yeah.
Anyway,
I'll send you some chapters, all right, or one chapter. We'll see. Maybe I'll send you the Rujoed one. You know, who knows? So now miscellaneous points before we get to the next one. It's a small detail, but Rudy has never so far picked up chantless healing yet, which is interesting. Everything else he seems to be able to do intuitively by healing, but that he for some reason he just can't pick it up. And I guess the light novel explanation that I've heard so far is
what
that
what are you talking about?
so he can do all of his magic he can do without words, right? Chantless. He can
Yeah.
summon stones or whatever. He can't do healing magic. He's never healed himself without words. And that's why when
Oh,
Orsted
okay.
attacks him, he's like, "Why don't you, Rudy? Why don't?" Oh, he doesn't say Rudy, but why don't you just heal yourself with your chantless magic? And he just can't do it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and the
And I guess when
explanation
he's
in the light
healing
novel.
Eris on the boat, he's
Yeah,
saying
he's
things?
saying the whole thing and everything.
Okay.
Like a big part of what we see is that when he is, or what we hear in the light novel is that when he does, like for instance, the cumulonimbus spell, to him it's very intuitive, and he can feel what it's like to like bring the clouds together and, you know, maintain them in a certain wind pattern so that the clouds will stay there forever. So he doesn't have to keep it up there, like keep up the spell like Roxy has. He can like make the clouds do their own thing, kind of. They talk about that in the light novel a lot about like how magic works in his mind. For healing, he has no intuition of it because he never understood healing in his previous world. He doesn't understand what this healing magic is doing. He just can't build up an intuition for how it works. So for him, he can't do this chantless magic. That's what at least what he thinks of at this point in the story, which was
I
interesting.
thought you were going to say he's so selfless that he can't heal himself, but that wouldn't make any sense because he had to do the healing thing for Eris.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Okay.
Are you done with this fucking episode yet?
Let me blast through these then. I said a lot of stuff is cut here from what I remember. We got the OVA, which also is like right after this ball episode, which I told you to watch at the end. Rujoed patting Norn's head and tells her to cherish her siblings. I thought that was really cute. Geese has been searching. I guess Geese is a revelation we didn't really talk about.
Hold on, just one thing.
Yep.
You were saying the Rujoed Paul moments were cool earlier. And I thought so, and you didn't bring up the exact example of what I thought was cool, but I've now forgotten it. So I like that stuff. Oh, I guess an interesting thing was like Paul getting reintroduced is obviously also interesting and fun because we have other characters now. But I was obviously Eris is my favorite character, you know.
Yes.
Oh, where is she? Lamau. We'll get to that later. And I was kind of disappointed in her and Paul's interactions because it was just like kind of adversarial. And again, in such a way I've seen before somewhere. And I'm feeling Pokemon right now in my head.
Sure.
But
everything is Devil
I don't
Man.
recall the examples. No, not Pokemon. Pokemon's cool.
I think one thing to point out is that I'm pretty sure they do have an extra scene with Paul. At least 1 or 2 extra scenes with like Paul's interactions with people in the light novel that are just not in there. A lot of stuff is cut out from this Millis part of the story.
Yeah, I guess I am saying that the Rujoed stuff was not disappointing, and they were oddly stoic, and I thought that was cool. Also, the Crunchyroll comments did tell me that the Eris stuff is a light novel chapter, so I know that much.
The Eris Goblin stuff? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
It seemed to be setting up plot threads for the future. Maybe.
Yeah, or was it? Yeah, I don't know. Geese, yeah, we didn't talk about Geese at all. Last time we just thought he was just some guy, but apparently he was...
He was cool,
he was
funny.
one of the members of, I don't remember what their name was, but the party that they have, yeah. And he's been searching for the family.
Yeah, he like orchestrated that kind of... I assume he got arrested because he knew Rudius was there, or was that happenstance, or...
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's never confirmed or anything, but yeah, he probably got wind of this guy who's a magician, young, whatever.
The funny idiot that pretends to be an idiot, but then is actually like funnily, but nicely, what do you call that? Optimistically or something, manipulating events for the good guys to get together. I've seen that character before,
True. It's almost like every character in fiction, you can say I've seen it before, right? So I think something that's interesting about Geese. Actually, I wonder if you picked this up. There's no way you did.
Hold on, just quickly on the thing.
Yeah.
I thought he was a different archetype, and I liked that archetype more, which was the just goofy, like, overly... He's that one dude from One Piece that Miller really likes that worships Luffy at, what's that arc called? At Dress Rosaries around then, just for the audience. So I thought he was like that guy, but he was actually like a different guy.
Yeah. And dare I say, once again, we get a lot more Geese stuff in the light novel. But I think the stuff I remember from Geese was before Millis, so like when they're traveling in that cart and stuff. Anyway, what I was going to say is there's a tiny detail, Kyle. Do you know what the Bagarit continent is?
That's where Lilith is. No, not Lilith.
Lilith. Geez.
Lilith is a different thing. Zenith.
Yes, well done.
I think.
And did you pick up where Geese said he was going to go after you left Paul? He's like, I've searched a bunch of places. Why don't I look at the Bagarit continent? That's one place I haven't looked. So anyway.
And that's where Roxy's going, so we can have more of our cast interact. What a time to be alive.
Interesting. And talking about Roxy, we're done with Paul, so now we got to talk about the Roxy's Journey episode.
I guess we probably talked about this last time, but I really can't believe they had the balls to cuck us with the Roxy reunion. It didn't happen the whole season. Because when I finished episode 22, I was like, oh, I don't know what we're going to do for one episode to end this. And I was like, oh, they can probably cram a Roxy reunion in here somehow if they wanted to like cap off the season. And they still didn't do it, so that's interesting.
Yeah, they're on like complete opposite sides of the world right now.
Yeah, I ain't looking at no fucking map, just teleport or some shit.
True.
But yeah,
okay, let me recap Roxy the journey. So Roxy travels to Brakarasu and talks to Nokapura, the horseman, about the old days and how far both of them have come. He tells her that...
I still hate this horse.
He has a family, Kyle, right? He tells her about, I might fight with my family from time to time, but I'd do anything for them, you know? What a guy. And also then the other thing is Roxy visits her family for the first time since she ran away. She isn't telepathic. She heads to the northern part of the demon continent to look for the rest of the family now that she knows that Rudius is alright. So, Roxy. Nokapura and her family. What do you think?
Nokapura's a she?
No? Did I say that?
Yeah, Nokapura and her family. I guess he meant Roxy's family.
Yeah, Roxy's family. Jesus. That would be crazy.
I think the sound design and the I think I read Crunchyroll comments before I watched the episode. Yes, the telepathy. I'm building up to that, you idiot.
Go ahead.
So because I definitely did get spoiled because I was reading Crunchyroll comments beforehand, and it said, it's so cool. Yeah, when you watch a YouTube video, you just gotta scroll down first. And even the spoiler ones, you gotta click spoiler. I think I only did this for this one, but that's only because I forgot to do them for the other times, not because I didn't want to.
Right.
And I think one of the comments had said like, oh, Roxy's so cool. She even didn't have telepathy, and she was born without telepathy, and she's still a king class, whatever the fuck, some lame category shit. Why did I bring that up to build it into my point?
I don't know, but those two things have nothing to do with each
other. So I was preempted for what I assumed this episode was going to be, which is her going back and we're going to get flashbacks to her getting bullied now, and she's just like Rudius and this fucking lame bullying shit, and I hate it. And it wasn't that EliteAri. It was pretty good. Now, the crying at the end, that was a little annoying sometimes. It was, and I think I wanted to bring this up earlier, and I don't remember if I made the point, but it slightly annoyed me, but I liked it more than the Paul and Rudius stuff. And
Okay.
it's also a family reunion thing, etc., etc. So that was probably going to like compare whatever I was saying before and highlight something and the reason why I felt that way, but I can't remember
Sure.
now. So I like the Roxy stuff. And the rock tapping shit was the coolest thing I ever heard, and the
Yeah.
visual they had with it when she couldn't understand, and the isolation of like even when she goes in and she sees her parents and they're like very happy and they turn around and they're still telepathy talking right in front of her,
Mm.
even though they're like actually glad and they don't realize they're annoying her by showing something she can't do and then she wants to leave, etc., etc. That was all cool.
I love it. Yeah, that's good. I was This was the episode I was looking forward to the least because it like takes a side story from the main story, and I'm like, I don't remember liking this, but I thought it was great. All right, a lot of this is like now that I know who these characters are, like seeing these early days in their lives and just seeing the days that I wish that have gone by. I'm like, oh, I like these were the days. So I enjoyed it a
You know,
lot.
when you say things like this, EliteAri, it is interesting because this whole show so far has been a lot of little journeys, and there's an overarching thing about getting family, losing family, finding family again.
Hmm.
That means a metaphorical thing and a literal thing, EliteAri. My goodness.
Well,
Um, I'm assuming it's going to get a lot more dramatic because you're like, man, these early, like, what's Roxy going to do in 20 volumes, right? Is she killing and she's lost an arm because she was in a battle with Dragon Dude and something's happening. That's what I'm thinking when you're saying these things, EliteAri. And it is
right.
very interesting. Um,
Okay.
Fuck, I was scrolling through something and I was going to say something about Roxy. Oh, it's easy. It's interesting how they cheated to make Roxy seem like a good character, and I fell for it entirely.
Hmm.
Roxy is in 2 episodes at the beginning, and then she doesn't do much. There's not too much to her character. She's likable, which is probably the most important thing. And so then we cutting back to her constantly and pretending we care, and we
Hmm.
do. What's up with that, EliteAri? They
True.
cheated. It's a very clever trick they played on us to make us think this character was a character. And look at her.
She definitely
Now
is a
we're
character.
happy
I
that
think I
she's with
talked
her
about this
family and
last time,
having
and you
fun.
you completely disagreed with me. But to me, it was interesting to see her in two different dynamics, which was unique. See her with Rudius as a teacher.
Yeah,
We see her with her friends as like a equal.
yeah,
Interesting.
I
And
think
now we
that's
see her with her
interesting.
parents, another dimension to her character. Hmm.
How was she with her friends last time?
With Lionelize and Talhan, she was kind of the unconfident, kind of childish one. Not childish, but like not immature even, but like not experienced in life
Yeah.
compared to these two people who were. Whereas compared to Rudius, she seemed like a very experienced person who was confident and loved by everyone around the village, and it was just two different, very different aspects to her.
This was epitomized by her childish lust for lust when she
Yes,
wanted to be swept away on her feet, etc., etc. Yes, I understand. I'm big brain. I'm
well
paying
done.
attention.
Okay, I guess should I mention it here? I don't know. YGG Studio, whatever that's channel. They
Ig
talk about the
Studio.
IG Studio. Yeah, they have a video about how they changed their mind on Mushoku Tensei, and they talked about those first 9 episodes they were talking. Have you seen this video? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't. I've only seen their content one.
Yeah, so they
Uh,
reflect on their content episode or whatever, and they talk about how they've changed their mind since then, basically. And this
and
Roxy
they
scene,
like or hate the
Roxy,
show.
they how do I? It's not that simple, I don't think.
Is it just B in the video? Is
Yeah,
it
it's
just
just one person talking.
yeah?
It's basically like I thought it was a really interesting video. Talking about how she saw it a certain way initially, and how seeing more of the story and seeing particular scenes kind of changed the way she saw it. But yeah, she brings up the Roxy thing and talks about how this was one of the most relatable parts of the story to her. It was just interesting. So I don't know,
I
maybe it's
know
fine.
exactly why she would think that way with
Sure.
her, like
Yeah.
with what I know about her personally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, it is interesting because this is probably a much more recent video, and I have noticed that she has become a lot more normie in her likes and
Mm.
what she likes. Like I think she went through the MCU movies recently and she liked them, and I remember like seeing comments from her audience revolting, like, "How could you possibly like an MCU movie, etc., etc." Because she built up sort of this that sort of fan base. And it's very interesting because I sort of saw her going down a similar journey of liking a lot of things that previously she might not have liked. Because I remember in the content episode, she talked about how, like the appeal of the show was that it was like kind of just this whatever show, but the sex stuff was like the appeal or the fetish. Because she used to talk about how every anime has like its particular fetish, and that's like its selling point because the rest of it's all the same. And like the hypersexualization and the actual with the actual sex stuff, not just like titties bouncing, but fucking happening everywhere and Paul's knocking up two girls, etc., was sort of the appeal or the fetish of the show. I assume the reading with the emotional Roxy moment, that doesn't really fit into that read she used to have. So yeah, it would be interesting. You'll send me this video afterwards. I'll watch it.
Absolutely.
How recent was it? Do you know?
I got a
Like
siren blaring in the background right now. I don't know if you can hear it.
Yeah, I can hear it in a little bit, but it's fine.
Anyway, recent as in I think it's like a year or so ago.
Yeah, okay.
I think. I remember watching it ages ago, but I just completely forgot about it. I rewatched it yesterday. But yeah, she makes a very interesting point about what you were saying about how initially she thought the sex part was a certain aspect of the show, but she's like completely changed the way she sees it now. Yeah, it's gonna be. I'm interested to see what you think about it. But anyway, Roxy stuff. So she used to. Yeah, small thing we get during their conversation with Nokapra is about how she used to be like because she's so small and because she kind of felt like otherized in her community. She felt like people were always looking down on her and like dismissed her basically as a child. And all she ever wanted to do was be seen as a grown-up. But now that she's a grown-up and a king-class water mage and like is world-renowned, she feels the opposite, where she's like, people have too high expectations of me and I feel like I can't live up to them, basically. So small thing there I thought was cute. You know, you'll
never be happy in life. Whenever you get one thing, you'll want the last thing. Oh my god, what a terrible thing we are.
So true, you know. The other aspect, which this never stuck out to me when I was watching. I guess I'll point that out. But this is a thing that I've heard people talk about. I've heard Bacon talk about this. The Eek Studio, whatever you said. I've heard her talk about it, which is that it feels like this episode is a metaphor for autism or something, where it's like you can hear these thoughts, but you don't understand them. Like you can't interact. You have a different social.
I know that's exactly what B would say. I don't know.
I don't know either. I've never felt this. Yeah, I've heard Bacon talk about this.
Bacon's a bit of a Yig Studio fan, a bit of an old.
Oh no! Firstly, I don't know if it came from her. I feel like it's a thing I've heard before. Maybe it did. I don't know.
The autism anime stuff is sort of kind of all originates from her, I think.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Interesting reading.
That's interesting. I don't know.
It's definitely a metaphor for like a disability. I guess I can certainly see how it would be a metaphor for autism. Like I think it works very well, but it's not something that's.
I think Roxy is that autistic of a character. Really, she seems pretty socially aware.
Yeah. Well, I guess it has to do with it's a metaphor. Like she doesn't actually have autism.
Yeah, but I think it would much like fit like deafness or blindness much better.
Sure. Yeah. I guess potentially.
Yeah. But
yeah, she ran away from home. She'll
come back every 50 years.
Yeah, that is pretty funny. Yeah. I just imagine being her, like growing up in like a village like that, where in your house, like your parents will probably talk to you, but as soon as you step outside, it's just quiet. Like no one talks. Wouldn't that be like that would impact you a lot. To just go outside and walk into the shops or something, even though there are no shops here, but just hearing no one, or just hearing those clicking noises every time you leave. It's scary. And and also it was just sad seeing this like little Roxy when she was younger, not understanding why no one wants to talk to her. Cute stuff.
Why did I think hopscotch was an Australian thing?
I feel like that probably is a name that is Australian or British or something. I don't know.
Yeah, probably, huh? I think I feel like in American movies I do hear them call it something else. But yeah, I was like, it kind of took me back. I'm like, man, I feel like I'm in grade 2 and doing hopscotch. They're doing hopscotch. I haven't thought about that in like 10 years. That's crazy. Yeah. Also, I have an uncle that's like this apparently, and I know he's like this because I've never met him, but he like just shows up at like my grandmother's place like once every like 15 years and will like give her a car or something because he's like rich and lives in America or something. I don't really know the story because it's been explained to me a few times, but it's been so far like long ago now. But yeah, so there is something interesting and relatable about the sort of like that one. And also my grandmother's got like 7 kids, right? So she sees a lot of them all the time. But there's just this one, and he's sort of the middle kid, and it's sort of weird. To just come in and out of life like that and spend like one day and then leave in like the dead of night or something, like Roxy kind of planned to do. She didn't actually do that, but it was like, I kind of get this dynamic. It's interesting.
Wow, you know what? I can't believe of all the things in this story, that's the one thing you can relate to. I'm glad.
No,
So-
what about food and downstairs?
Yeah, true. I forgot about that. Yep, cool. I thought it was also cool seeing another side of Nokapra, you know? Like, we reframe his
I
past
hate him.
actions. He was talking, like, Roxy asked him, and she's basically like, oh, so you still are bullying the new people? And from his perspective, he's
Yeah.
like, I'm just teaching them about how harsh life can be. I'm looking out for them. And I'm like, oh, this guy, look, he's such a good guy. And we judged him so harshly before. Oh my goodness. I love him. Nokapra, he would probably be in my, probably my A tier if I was doing a tier list. All right, so we'll see where you put him.
I think I put him in C tier, which
oh,
I
what
didn't
a
put him
shame.
in the I don't know enough to have an opinion,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is
sure.
what, like, maybe 45% of the
Yeah,
characters
yeah.
ended up in.
That is kind of what I was expecting. Anyway,
But yeah.
yep. And then they end this episode, well, end this like kind of story with Eris and Roxy, Eris and all that. They're on a boat, and I thought the boat was crazy, like the atmosphere of it. It was just I've never seen boat animation like that before.
What boat you talking about? There's no boat at the end of this episode. I'm hovering over
it might,
it now.
no, it might not be this episode, but this like transition before we go to Shirrone, they go on a boat.
So what atmosphere was in the boat? What am I
It's just crazy. It's like a giant storm, and it's like rocking the boat in a way which is like insane. And Rujo doesn't get seasick, but everyone else is like dying basically.
Yeah, they're like vomiting and stuff. I remember because I was eating and they were making vomiting noises, and I hate Mushoku Tensei.
I was gonna ask you, have you ever been seasick before?
No, but I've very seldomly been on a boat in my life.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Never
crazy.
in,
I've
like,
been seasick
wavy
once. It was the
waves.
worst thing ever. I couldn't believe it because I've always heard of like people being seasick, and I'm like, oh, you're probably overblown. Like when I feel sick, but it's like it goes away.
That's how I feel right
But
now. I'm
God
like,
damn,
EliteAri,
Kyle.
what the fuck
When you're seasick, it doesn't go away. Like it can't because you're like on the boat, and as soon as you start feeling sick, it's
So
like you're gonna be like out for the rest of the
nauseous or
time.
just throwing up?
Yeah, you're nauseous, you're dizzy because it's like rocking side to side, and I didn't throw up or anything, but I just felt terrible.
I don't know if I know what nauseous feels like.
Jesus, I don't know. Just
Like,
wake up
I
when
throw
you've
up,
had
I
1
don't
hour
really
of sleep.
feel anything but throwing up, but I haven't thrown up in like. They always throw up a little bit, like those gross little ones, but I haven't actually thrown up in like.
I felt
10 years.
so nauseous in the beginning, like 30 minutes of this
drink very
conversation. All right, you can probably tell if when we go back. Anyone listening, go back and listen. I was trying to hold back throwing up. All right, I felt so sick at the beginning of this.
So nauseous is like when you get nervous and you got to shit, right? So I guess I've felt that before.
Oh, that's not what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it's like when you're like sweating and you're like shaking and you feel like you're gonna throw up basically, and it's like your stomach feels like if you make any wrong move, you're just gonna throw
That's
up.
just like excitement stuff. I guess I feel like,
But in a bad way. You're not like excited.
I don't know.
Jesus. Okay.
But I'm feeling, when I think of nauseous, I'm feeling like disorientated. Like, yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
All right.
I'm sure the audience is enthralled with my discovering what nauseous means.
Yeah.
Segment. Put a
Next
timestamp
up-
on it, EliteAri.
Yeah, I think Kyle discusses his lack of experience and things. All right. Shirrone. That's the next part here. I'll do the
Eris
recap.
is
Oh,
a
yep, go ahead.
useless bitch, EliteAri. She's been destroyed. Out of the top spot, in comes Algo Aisha.
Oh
the
my
greatest-
god.
The greatest character in Mushoku Tensei. What a little girl. She's in her maid outfit, and
I
she's
love
not
it.
even a little slave girl anymore. She's funny. She's smart. She's fucking with people. She's outsmarting this fucking idiot Rudius. Oh my
God.
goodness gracious me. She's saving the day. She's running away. The greatest character in Mushoku Tensei.
Oh my god. I can't believe it, Kyle. I'm so glad. That's a great thing. A lot of people are
Oh,
going to be
you know
very
what
happy.
almost-
that-
You know
I'm
what
very
almost
interested.
took me
Yeah.
out of this is
What?
that every Crunchyroll comment also said this, and for a second I was like, "Fuck Crunchyroll comments."
Yep.
I think that was another one I read beforehand, so I was prompted to dislike her even,
Wow.
and I still liked it. She shows up, and there's this man god idiot, and then she's just in the thing. Every little interaction she's doing is so cute. I feel
Yeah.
like every comment is like, "Norn sucks. Aisha's the best," and I'm like, yeah, dumb fucking
True.
Norn is doing nothing, being boring. The actual kid, the bastard kid, is the coolest one.
Yep. Well, for anyone listening who isn't Kyle, because Kyle's not allowed, if you've seen the light novel, go look at my tier list, alright? Then you'll see what I think about these characters, because I can't say anything. But, yeah. I'm glad you like Aisha. Very interesting. Should we go into the recap? I guess. You better not be looking at my tier list. All right, don't look up my tier list. I don't want you to see it. All right.
I was looking at Crunchyroll comments, right?
Okay, good. So, while on a boat, Rudy meets the man god again. And if the man god can help Rudy find his family, then Rudy will consider trusting him more going forward. The man god uses Rudy's demon eye to show him a vision of the future and tells him that if he follows his instructions, he can find both Lilia and Aisha. So I guess I want to point out immediately, which is something that really stuck with me when I first read it, which was really interesting, is the fact that the man god only got Rudy the demon eye purely for this moment, or at least that's what it seems like, for him to show him the vision of the future. It's like he's like planned ahead. It was like really interesting to see that aspect of him, of the man god, I guess. But yeah, did that stick out to you at all? Where you're like, huh, he's like forcing him to use his demon eye here, and he wouldn't be able to show him stuff without it.
No, I didn't even think about it a little bit. But this man god dude's probably got a. Now this is how it's going to happen because everything in Mushoku Tensei is incredibly predictable.
Sure.
This is a joke because I'm probably not going to be right because I don't deserve to be right because the world karma never gives me bragging rights except for that one Mikasa video. What was I saying? Oh, the man god. This is what's going to happen, right? So slowly, he's a mysterious fellow. We don't trust him. Well, Rudius doesn't trust him. And then he does a good thing here, and we start to trust him. And then there's going to be a big point when seemingly he does something really bad, because right now we're positioned to like him against this dragon dude, because he's a good fella, but we're jumping ahead a little bit. So what's going to happen with this man god? Why am I going into a man god prediction right now? Who knows? Let's finish the thought, though. He's going to seemingly do something bad, and then in the end, he's going to be good. Or I guess in the end, he's actually going to be a bad guy. So he's going to be a good guy or a bad guy.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think I forgot where I was going with it, and then those are my two thingies.
So you think it's going to be up and down? We'll keep like thinking if he's good or bad, and yeah. Okay, interesting. Okay.
Why did I do that?
Because I was asking about the man god, and we also haven't really talked about him at all so far. Like what he wants and like what's going on and why he's talking.
Yeah, because it is interesting because obviously he's done something to piss off our dragon friend. And he seemingly is not at war with him from his perspective. It seems to be a funny Don Draper, I don't even think about you meme with the dragon dude. He's sort of just chilling, and the dragon dude's very mad. But they have some sort of a history. He's not the strongest one, and he's not the one that reincarnated our boy Rudius. He's mentioned that before. So yeah, there's obviously hints probably around here, but am I paying attention enough? I'm not sure.
Sure. Yep. Man, there's hints that I don't know about this particularly, but there's hints with stuff where I don't know. Let's not talk about this. All right. So yeah. So talk to the Vanguard. Dead End, which is what I'm calling their party now. Dead End arrives at the Shirrone Kingdom, and Rudy runs into Aisha, who hates her pervert older brother. Fair enough.
Yes, very funny gag immediately.
True.
It's the Isidro gag, except better.
Yes, true.
The Isidro gag has no stakes, right? It's just fucking guts did it, you fucking moron, dumb little kid. Yep. S-tier character. We love Isidro here.
Yep.
But this one is funny, so it's better. I guess the Isidro one's funny. Not Lilia. Lilia's daughter Aisha is the best.
Yes, I think you mean Paul's daughter Aisha, right? Or do you hate Paul? Yeah, true, alright. Alright, Rudy is summoned to the castle to meet Roxy, but it's a trap. Pax Shirrone traps Rudy in a king-class barrier that prevents the use of magic, and is using him to lure Roxy so that he can rape her. It's crazy.
Yes, just before this, they did the thing again where it's super obvious that we're going directly into trouble.
Oh, yeah.
Where Rujard, I get his name, is again like, be careful, Rudy, like, we're not going to do this. And he's like, I'll just get out of it because I'm strong if anything happens. And you're like, yeah, he is strong. But we're definitely getting some thingy here, some fuckery here. And it's a little bit of frustration about why he doesn't see it. But I think this is a bit of Normie's frustration about not putting yourself in the character's position, etc. We all have a little bit of Normie in it.
True. I agree. You know what? I think it is very obvious, but I didn't even spare a thought to it because in 10 minutes it's resolved. So I don't know. The
meme is the resolution happens funnily in this one.
Yeah. So Pax, I guess we can, before I continue the recap. What do you think about Pax? He's we last time we saw him, it wasn't a character at all. Yeah.
We definitely speculated at some point, and this is definitely tied into our problematic sexual stuff talks, probably in episode 1, about whether or not this was just another funny gag, which it was kind of a funny gag back then. But then we took it very seriously. So this is probably the biggest indication that we are taking the problematic sexual stuff seriously. But again, I think I already brought this up earlier. It's kind of, it's comedic, I would say, not really funny. How like evil he is, and like that is juxtaposed with how wild his brother is, who is also maybe evil. He like chokes out his and decapitates his little brothers, etc. This reminded me kind of the dumb Hunter x Hunter family with the not Kurapika, the other one. Yeah, and they got the weeb kid, the fat weeb kid son, and the cool one that we like, and probably the older crazy one or something. But yeah, that dude was pretty cool too. He was the 5-minute scene. We're jumping ahead of him marveling at the figure. Yeah, it was pretty funny. I like that one.
True. I love that one as well.
The little kid was I don't know if I put him in C tier or in don't have an opinion.
Yeah. So, yeah. It is. I don't know what I should. I don't even know if I can say anything. What can I say? Pax is interesting.
Now I know he's coming back.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that.
They did ship him off somewhere.
Yeah. Pax. What do you think about Pax? What do you think about him?
I don't know. He was trying to rape.
Yeah. Why do you think he like? Do you think he has a reason, or is it just like I don't even know
he's
what I can...
horny and has never been told no and wants what he wants, and I don't know.
Because his plan is kind of ridiculous, right? Like, yeah, I don't know. Like he, even Rudy points it out, where he's like, even if you, like, who's gonna hear this if you don't say anything? Like, I don't know. I'm just trapped. I'm trapped. I don't know what I can say. I can't say anything.
I thought you were like prompting me to say something.
No, I don't know. Pax is interesting, all right?
Is he?
But yeah, he's not. That's the other thing. I don't know. Maybe he's not interesting, all right? I don't know. I'm trapped here. I can't say anything. Let's continue.
There's something to attach this somewhat. Lilia is, and this is a different, like, this is the type of character shit where you've seen it before, where I'm complaining about it. And it's a more interesting type of character conversation. Lilia is just the type of character that's going to suffer a lot, isn't she? Like, don't you just get that vibe, EliteAri, where it's just like maybe it's like a servant maid type characters often suffer and they're like, don't deserve it. Is this ringing any bells to you? Are you picking up on this, or is this just a weird vibe I got?
I kind of know what you're saying.
Because because her first shot back is her like tied up on the ground, and then you're like, well, she's like suffering as like the maid, and I feel like I had immediate sympathy for her because she's like a stay-in maid with a couple, and it's like, well, she's single and not having fun and has to like do chores and shit all day. This must be miserable. I remember even thinking like, oh, maybe she has a boyfriend that also is in the village, and one day she'll ask for leave to move out and start her own family over here, which doesn't end up happening. She ends up seducing Paul because she's miserable, etc., etc. It's just like, man, this is just the type of character that suffers, probably sexually, and not as in like she's sexually frustrated like she was at the beginning, but like is probably a character that gets raped or something at some point. I know, it's just the vibe of this type of... It's not just that she's a maid, though I think that the personality type she has obviously lends itself to that. But that type of character, I don't know. Again, it's another thing of like, I can't grasp the example of what it reminds me of, so this point is pointless.
I guess to me, I would probably say that she's... we haven't seen anything of her being very... I don't even know what to say. Very strong personality or anything. Like, I think if someone tried to say something bad about her, if someone said something bad about her, I don't think that she would like yell at them back or anything. But if someone said something bad to Zenith, I feel like Zenith would fight back or something. I don't know, something like that. What's Steins Gate Go? What are you talking about?
The Moaka, the one that shoots Mayuri.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, I guess they're
She reminds me of that. She's
very
like
subdued.
quiet. It's like she's going to get like abused and she's gonna like have a moment where she stands back up and readjusts her glasses
Sure.
and like continues on. The Moeka kills herself, I'm pretty sure, a few times in a Steins Gate in a few other timelines.
Right.
Um,
Yeah,
but yeah,
Lilia
even
is
when
interesting.
like
Yeah.
yeah, when she like reunites with Paul, even that moment is like kind of bittersweet, and it's like yeah, this is kind of what I envisioned a little bit, but not in a
Yeah.
bad way, but in like, the vibe. This fits the vibe, bro.
Yep. I guess talking about Lilia, my first immediate thing is that there's a great entire chapter about her in Volume 1 from her perspective, so we do get a lot of Lilia stuff there. But yeah, Lilia. I have a little bit of character stuff, but I think mainly it stems from at the end of this whole arc. She has this brief scene with Rudy where she hugs him from behind, which is interesting because it
Yeah,
shows that she does care about him, and it's like this was the family that I lived with, um, and he saved me, all those years ago, by
there was
you know.
some sexual aspect to this moment too, right? Where it was
I didn't take it that way at all. Maybe I took it as more of a
well,
motherly like
on her
hugging from
boobs,
behind.
and like she said, "I know" or something, and it was like I guess she felt like she was rewarding him or something. Maybe it was a little weird, but yeah, and it
Yeah,
was also
maybe.
weird the way she was. Yeah,
Yeah, I could see a reading like that. Um,
I think Rudius literally says like, "Oh, I'm touching you" or whatever, and she's like, "I know." So I think that's verbal. I don't know. It
I
doesn't
don't remember
matter.
that at all. Maybe. Yeah, the point that I find interesting is the fact that as soon as Aisha shows up, she like recoils, like she closes the door and she doesn't. Basically, I take it as she doesn't want Aisha to see her being kind to Rudius, or just being kind in general. And to me, that says a lot about how she her
Yeah,
how she is to Aisha as a mother. Um,
because on the first viewing, you're like, "Oh, she doesn't want like to give away that it's the brother," but on retrospect, I
mm,
think she knows that Aisha knows that it's the brother. So why did she do that? Is actually interesting. I hadn't thought about that at all.
yeah.
Um,
It isn't. I take it as like her. It's saying a lot about her being very stern and a harsh mother who is, yeah, maybe not the best mother in the world. I guess. Like she refers to Aisha as like this dull-witted girl who still fails to appreciate your qualities. Um,
yeah,
yeah, it's interesting.
because Aisha's obviously the greatest, and the mother doesn't
Yeah,
think so. And you're like, dumb
like
mother,
she's
but yeah,
obviously very smart. But yeah, Lilia doesn't see it that way.
doing
Um,
calculations, EliteAri. My God, what a gag.
True. Yeah. All right, back to the recap, I guess. So, well, yeah, I guess we flash back to Lilia and Aisha during the teleportation incident, which I personally, I couldn't believe we got
They were
another
underwater
perspective.
too.
Yeah, they teleported underwater, which was crazy. I guess this is our first glimpse into, or maybe I guess this is all we get in the anime so far. Teleportation incident teleported you anywhere, whether that be in the sky, under the water, in the underground. Like it's a teleportation incident. All right. Yeah. So some people were probably in a lot of trouble when they teleport. Some people probably died instantly, like Eris's parents potentially. So yeah, crazy.
Oh yeah,
So yeah.
they did died somewhere.
Yeah, so flashback to Lily and Aisha during the teleportation incident. They teleport underwater. Yeah, what I was saying is we get another perspective of the teleportation incident, which was crazy. I couldn't believe it because I only remember two of them. And this was crazy because you're seeing it in the distance, and as it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's like how big was this thing? So yeah, it was cool to see. Yeah, Rudy meets Zainoba, a blessed child with
Oh,
immense
hold
strength.
on.
Yeah,
Just quickly on the Flash thing, that's another like tie-in thing with Lilia where she realized it was dangerous before everybody else. It's another little like
yeah,
bad things happen to Lilia type I guess that could be because she's had bad things happen in the past, so she realizes before the others because she's
I like that.
traumatized, I guess.
Yeah, I
Something
like
like
that.
that. Just popped in my head, I'm pretty
Yeah,
smart.
look at you analyzing characters. Um, Yeah, Rudy meets Zainova, a blessed child with immense strength that has a passion for figurines and dolls, and they bond over the Roxy figurine. And Zainova wants to become Rudy's student. So we've
Yeah.
talked about
Now
Zainova a little bit. Yeah, go ahead.
this is a Crunchyroll comment that I'm stealing it from. But
Uh
this was literally a 5-minute scene about it, and it was great, and I wasn't bored at all. where they're just talking and gagging, and it's pretty funny. And it is more sexualizing gagging, but I thought it was funny. And the whole mole stuff, etc., etc., it was
Mm.
good. Blessed child just means they're born strong, I guess, right? Because we
No.
got the one in the OVA.
So we have
Well, not
3.
strong literally, but they're built with like a power or something.
Yeah, their mana has. Yeah, they have some special thing, and I guess we've seen 3 of them. We've seen Xenoba, we've seen we've seen Blessed Child at the end in the OVA, and do you know who the other one is?
Maybe Rudius, because I was about
Nope.
to ask if he was
We
one.
have seen Dragon God Orsted as well. Really interesting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because he's a
then
cursed child, but
cursed,
we're saying it's 2 sides of the same coin, where it's like humans will attribute whether it's positive or negative, but the inherent thing there is that they have some special ability. Which I don't know, did they talk about that in the anime? Is that like did they bring that up? I think
Did they bring up which part?
That the blessed children and the cursed children are the same thing.
I don't know.
Maybe I'm going to say they did, but maybe they didn't. But anyway, yes. Crazy. Blessed children.
EliteAri spoils again. Embarrassing.
Yeah, I've just lost all my inhibitions here, So I agree. Also, I like that Xenoba stuff. It was great. Meanwhile, Eris looks after Aisha while Ruijerd goes to save the families of the guards who Pax is holding hostage.
And she initially is not very happy about this, but then she understands that she's got an important role.
Yep, this is a very different Eris to what we saw at the
start.
start.
Out of the first position. Yep. Loser.
True. Then Xenoba threatens Pax and gets Rudy released from the barrier, which is interesting. The barrier was very effective on Rudius, by the way.
Yes.
King class barrier.
Because a similar thing happened again exactly last time when we had the whole preamble where he was caught in the cave thingy, right?
The cave thing? What are you talking about?
There was an with the fucking animal kids.
Oh, the sacred beast. Yeah, the sacred beast was trapped in one, and he was like surprised how easy it was to get rid of it. He just like knocked this crystal and the barrier went away. It's like, oh, that was a bit easy. Which is funny because it's like when you're in there, it's like there's no getting out, but when you're out, it's like easy.
There's also other like plot stuff here where there's the guards when you initially meet them aren't being overtly evil, and it's clearly like, oh, there's more going on here. And then there's that ginger girl who was cool because she was kind of pretty and stoic, and she was also like there's clearly something going on here because obviously as an audience member you know Roxy isn't there, so you know something's up, etc. But those were interesting tension building plot details.
Yep.
Best 2 episodes, perhaps, maybe, I don't know.
Really?
I think that other one comes right afterwards, huh?
Are these some of your favorite ones? We'll talk about this at the end, maybe. Interesting. Okay. I think these are my 2 least favorite ones, I would say. But I still like them for what comes afterwards, I guess later, eventually. So yeah, threatens them, barrier. Rudy and Lilia have that cute moment together we talked about, and Rudy and Aisha talk about mementos. And Aisha reveals that she's put together that Rudy was her brother. And then Pax and Xenoba are banished from the kingdom. Anyway, yeah, go ahead. That's everything. Recap.
So she put together, or I assume
that's probably bad
phrasing. The whole time.
Yeah, she knew the whole time is kind of what it's phrased as. Yeah.
Because when we were talking about this, I kind of started to think, like, was this a plan between her and Lilia to...
Well, I don't know about that. I wouldn't say
to kind of teach Rudy that the panty thing is probably not giving off a good impression for him to like see his little sister think she's really cool, save her, and then for her to like, oh, if she only knew this little detail about you, she wouldn't like you, and therefore he was. But I guess he didn't really internalize that message at all, and
I didn't even get that at all. I thought the whole point was he was teaching Aisha about how the importance of mementos and how he has that thing because it reminds him of Roxy. And it's like,
I guess.
I thought it was the complete opposite of what you said.
And then he gives her something, doesn't he?
He gives her the neck guard or the chin guard or something. And it's
the forehead guard.
Oh, the forehead guard. That's right.
In Naruto, you fucking idiot.
Sorry, because he took it from his neck. I was like, wait, he doesn't have it on his forehead right now. Yeah. Anyway.
But yeah, that was cute.
Yeah. So Pax and Xenoba, they are banished from the kingdom under the guise of study abroad, which is funny.
So who's punishing them and why are they getting punished? And
so here's they're like the third prince and like the seventh prince or something. Yeah. So I would assume whoever is the actual like current king or whatever. or
Yeah.
queen,
Or
I
maybe
guess.
it's a Dawn situation where Prince is actually the highest title and there's no king
Yeah,
EliteAri.
maybe.
So you would probably know better than me. Um, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So they would have found out and decided that rape was bad, and they
Or maybe
punished the other
imprisoning your own
brother.
guards. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, or rape,
Oh, yeah, I
or
guess that.
kidnapping these random people in a
And trying to kill
in-class
your brother
barrier.
was what the other one did.
Sure,
Okay,
yeah.
so we are all committing crimes here, and we got to be sent away.
It was interesting how
Um,
they set up Zenober as like this is a very valuable asset to the Shirrone kingdom. Like he is a blessed child, and they treat him with care, even though he killed his own brother like so many years ago when he was 3 years old. It just shows how valuable blessed children are to this in this world. So yeah.
Yeah, they're like oh my god, I can't believe I forgot the Naruto thing. I was gonna make another funny Naruto reference. What the
Absolutely no
fuck?
idea.
Jinchurikis, the tailed
Ah,
beast kids, you know.
yeah. Yep.
That was for the audience, not for you. Don't like you know what I'm talking about, you fucking idiot.
All right, so going into the notes, the man god. Oh wait, we talked about that. Oh yeah, Rudy. When he goes, we didn't talk about this, but when he's in the man god's little void world, he talks about how he doesn't like seeing his old body. Basically, like he keeps thinking that he's gotten like he's turned a new leaf and he isn't the same person anymore. But he keeps getting reminded that he still is that same person when he goes there. So yeah.
We talked about this. Oh no, maybe it was with Minty. God, I just confuse my friends so much.
So true.
Is that what we are? Oh my goodness. I've
Yep.
never said that out loud.
Oh, thanks, Kyle.
I was talking.
Oh my god.
Shut up, kill yourself. I hate you. The especially not Minty. He's not my friend.
Right.
That's weird. We were talking about dreams and how coming out of a good dream can be like the most heartbreaking moment of your entire life. Where you finally got a girlfriend, EliteAri, and you saved her from what are they called in Game of Thrones? White Walkers and stuff. This was an actual dream. I probably talked about it on stream at some point, so maybe the most astute viewers in the audience recall. And then you wake up and you're like, man, I'm fucking miserable and lonely again, and it's just the worst. And that feeling, I definitely connect with this potential Rudiest feeling of waking up and being like, oh, everything we were invested in, all these plot threads we got built up, and it's all gone, and you're waking up and you're this dude again, and it is a scary existential thought, but also one I think he has to face, but I don't think he will in the narrative, and we already talked about that. So
yep. All right. Aisha is smart. Talked about that. Oh, I'll save it for the light novel comparisons. Rudyard really wants to assault the castle. He brought it up a few times throughout this. That was pretty funny. He's like, it's been ages since
a Crunchyroll comment made a joke about it, so it's not funny anymore. Stop
Jesus
laughing.
Christ. I actually, every now and then I did look at the Crunchyroll comments because I'm like, oh yeah, Kyle reads these, but not for everything. I was actually surprised there were no light novel spoilers from what I was reading. Anyway, Eris calls Rudy.
There were some deleted comments.
Yeah, that's probably what they would be.
Such stuff.
Yep. Eris is terrible at keeping up the facade, right? Wait, what? It didn't delete them?
Well, it doesn't. It just says like it doesn't get rid of them. It just
just was deleted comment.
The place with deleted comment, and there's still responses to it. It's like, well, this is kind of fucking stupid. Yeah. But nonetheless, Crunchyroll's inadequacies are not what we're here to talk about.
Yes. Yep, Eris bad actor. He has to call him Rudius. I said ask Kyle.
Oh yeah,
what am I going to ask you? Yeah. Oh no, I've already asked this. Don't worry. Okay. The birth of my little sister, the maid. I think that's the greatest episode title ever. I don't know if it's referring to something. It probably is because it comes out of nowhere and it doesn't really fit with the what happens in the episode. But I thought that's the coolest title we've seen so far.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I guess.
Cool.
There was some title things that
Turning Point 2.
Noticed. Huh? Yeah, obviously that one. Though when Turning Point 1 happened and Turning Point 2 wasn't right afterwards, I did scroll down and see that it was later in the season.
Yep.
After like the first one. There was one of these. Read out the titles because I'm not opening Crunchyroll because I got battery to save. So what are the other titles? Which one?
So
was cool.
We've got Reunion. Do you want me to? I'll just go through. So Reunion, Separate Journeys, Route Selection, The Birth of My Little Sister the Maid, Turning Point 2, Dreams and Reality, Wake Up and Take a Step, and Eris the Goblin Slayer.
Well, none of them ring a bell of anything I wanted to speak about. So lame.
So, Rudius. Oh yeah, Rudius does the renting a house bit where it's like in accommodation, and he does like that's enough. Yeah, it's like I'm not doing this bit again. So there you go, meta stuff, you know. The Yeah, I guess we should also talk about mention the placement of these episodes. Like, these are very light-hearted episodes, and they happen right before the turning point to kind of give you a false sense of security of like things are going to be all right going forward. Or did you get the opposite?
Are they
when you ended? Oh, absolutely, they're lighthearted. It's like Zainoba and him talking about this like figurine for 5 minutes, and Pax saying he's gonna rape someone.
Yeah, but even he's kind of unhinged and scary a little bit. I don't know about that.
Interesting. I don't know.
Did I feel the stakes more in this than in the next episode?
No, because you're not that crazy.
Favorite episodes.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, no, we'll talk about it. Why the stakes kind of get cucked a little bit in the next episode, but
wait, stakes? What do you feel about stakes in this episode? What do you consider as stakes?
Well, I don't know. I was scared. It's a claustrophobic situation for like the leaders of a thingy to have power. Now, obviously, I thought about it for 3 seconds. They're probably going to get out of this one, EliteAri. Imagine that. I guess the biggest stakes in the whole show is still that Gallius fight where I'm like, the dog could die and so could geese.
Sure. Oh, you mean stakes like death?
Okay.
Interesting.
A little bit, but obviously nobody was going to die in this one. Maybe just, tension. Though the next one was probably better.
All right, well, we'll get to it.
But these ones are pretty good. I don't know about this lighthearted shit, all right? He was going to cuck rape Roxy in front of Rudius and then cut his head off or something.
I do wonder. Maybe it is crazy. The fact that I've seen the anime and I'm watching it again and I'm like, I know nothing. I know there's like nothing's going to happen here. They're going to get banished. But yeah, interesting seeing a first watch through perspective here. Zainoba, we talked about him. Blessed child.
I feel like we don't talk about it enough that I like the fights in Mushoku Tensei, and this is something everybody complains about with me, about not liking any fights ever, and you don't appreciate the fact that I like these fights.
Well, you never mention it, so
appreciate me.
I'm glad you like it. That's great to hear.
Didn't I talk about it with this Gallius one? Wasn't that the greatest thing ever?
You bring it up every now and then, but you don't say it for every fight. I agree. I enjoy these fights, and I'm glad to hear you enjoy them. In terms of like animation, they're always crazy, like really good.
No, animation's lame. We don't care about that. It's about the powers, EliteAri.
Sure.
In Naruto, everybody can have every power because there's no stupid shitty system like dumb Hunter x Hunter where you're doing jelly something and everything's going to be technical and fucking you suck.
Right, like Chainsaw Man, yeah.
Yes, well, who cares about fights in Chainsaw Man? We want the gags.
True.
Yeah, and in Naruto and Mushoku Tensei, you just magic something and it happens. Like, you just make a little bullet out of the ground and it's cool and it spins and looks like a
stone cannon.
What was that thing Rhydon has on its head? A drill? I think I said that already. And it drills at the dragon dude. It doesn't do much, but it's pretty cool.
Yep. All right. Next point. Second last point. This entire arc was resolved behind Rudius's back, which was crazy. Very similar to the the Beast People thing, kind of. But this time it's like, since the beginning, like Ginger was already working to solve everything, and Rudius like gets out of it without any it just ends, and it's like really interesting. Now,
I think that is a bit of a meta joke thingy about like, well, usually in stories the protagonist has to do everything, whereas in this one it's like more realistic where other people are doing things around you, and it's like, oh, you don't usually like sometimes you will come into a problem in life and it'll just get solved. Without you even considering it because somebody else will do it. Though not very often. You usually got to do your own shit, huh? But yeah, it's an interesting little thing.
Cool. Now, I got two Rudy journey character stuff. One thing, he doesn't sexualize Aisha at all, which is I feel like something he would have done if this was right in the early part of this story.
He also calls her out for using.
For the sexual, he's like, oh, little kids shouldn't be saying stuff like that.
But he said it kind of funnily, like, but it's kind of cool, bro.
Yeah,
a little bit. I thought,
Yep.
And also, Lilia's got big boobs and stuff. Well, I guess so does Zenith. So,
true.
Norn would also, what do you call it? Develop, I think they say. Right. But yeah, Norn isn't making jokes about it like. Aisha's just hyper aware of everything and knows exactly what's going on and is so smart and clever and funny and aware and the best.
True. We'll talk about when we get to the light novel stuff. All right. Turning point 2. Recap.
What a boring introduction for that episode. My goodness.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. It's just let me just say this is the best episode of the series. It would probably be my top 4 or 5 episodes of all time of any anime I've ever seen in my life. I love it. Any overall thoughts before I do the recap?
It had I wish it happened vibes, but not quite. It was pretty good. I do think the intro cucked it a little bit by doing the flash forward thing. Yeah, because then I knew that nobody's gonna die. Especially when you make the stakes would have been so much higher if Eris gets impaled, because Rudius isn't gonna die. But I guess it doesn't matter. You don't have to have somebody. I guess that's stake stuff. I will say that even though I've said this for all the episodes where I didn't really check the thing, like this episode went by in like 3 minutes.
Right.
The intrigue is obviously there. Obviously, we saw this dude at the end of episode 8 or whatever it was, and he's the last one we meet, I'm pretty sure. So obviously when he shows up, it's very interesting. I forget exactly how it happens. I think the beginning of the episode's a little slow when they see the dragons and they try to power scale with the dragons a little bit, which is really interesting because in my head, Richard could like just chop one of these or all of them in half in one go and he would kill them all. But they're like, no, that's not how it works. But this one dude could beat up a bunch of dragons and then he shows up. I mean, step by step, it's pretty cool. They are all scared of him, and I saw Crunchyroll comments. Oh my goodness!
Oh boy!
What a thing to say! I saw Crunchyroll comments. But I saw them making fun of Rudius for being like, because they're just so fucking stupid.
Well, because he said something.
The shittiest jokes. No, yeah, they're like, bro, you should have just shut up. But it's like, oh my god, what do you want to cuck the fucking show, you fucking moron? Why are you taking it so literally? It's not real. Wrestling's fake, you fucking moron.
Right.
Anyway, but I feel like in that situation, I constantly do that. Where there's a work example that I don't think I want to go into on stream, but like where you're in sort of a nervous situation and it's probably best for you to like shut up and keep your head down. But I'm always like, well, that's what they expect and what they want. And they'll respect me more if I crack a joke or something. And last time I did that, it didn't work out very well. So I related and was like, yes, in this situation, the smartest thing to do, or the thing I think would be smartest, would be to actually talk to this person. Because maybe they're like sick of everybody being scared of them, or they'll respect you more for not being scared, etc. Because there are villains like that I've seen in other shows. So I was like, maybe Rudius is doing the good thing, but obviously the flash forward again cucked us because we know the fight's going to happen. So yeah, I was defending Rudius from accusation.
Good, I agree.
Of being stupid.
I also do remember reading those comments. I think this was one episode. So I'm like, this is my favorite episode ever of anything ever. Let me see what people think about it. So I looked at some of them, and a lot of them were.
I think one of the comments was literally that. It was like, this is my favorite episode of anything.
Well, I'm glad they're right about that. All right. But yeah, let me go through the recap, then we can talk about stuff. So cold open, flash forward to Rudy monologuing about how things happen suddenly. Your parents suddenly pass away. Your siblings suddenly beat the crap out of you. A truck suddenly runs you over. You suddenly get reborn in another world. Your father suddenly attacks you and packs you off to tutor a young noblewoman, while you're suddenly teleported to another continent. And sometimes people suddenly die. Which I love this monologue. Then Eris fights Ruijerd and loses, and Ruijerd announces that he will no longer treat her as a child because she is now a warrior. Great. I like this stuff a lot.
Obviously, this is all underwritten with like, this is like the final happy moment before everything falls apart. Is how they're trying to position it.
Yeah,
and
it
is effective.
Yeah,
so it adds a bittersweet layer, I guess, to this moment.
Yes, I agree. It is like, I didn't remember that there was that cold open at the beginning. I just thought it was just we get the fight when we get it. So it is really interesting to see that flash forward initially.
So is that how they do it in the visual novel? They start the chapter and then flash back?
It's really interesting. I did reread this chapter of the novel, but I don't think they do a flash forward. I think he just has his monologue about how siblings suddenly die, things happen. Like, I don't think he has the bit about, and sometimes people suddenly die. But maybe someone can correct me if I missed it. But
well, I guess in a book version it would work because you're not going to see the visuals.
Yeah, how are you going to describe it? Yeah, I guess. That's
chuck it less.
Yeah. So, yep. Then Dead End traverse the Red Dragon's lower jaw and come across Dragon God Orsted and Nanahoshi, a woman with black hair wearing a white mask. So
Now I
then,
recognize
yes.
this name, and at first I
Oh,
was like, it's a Naruto name, and then I
oh,
was like,
okay.
no, I think it's in an EliteAri video, and I don't remember the
Oh,
context.
I don't
So
know about
you're
that.
lucky,
I don't think I've ever said Nanahoshi in a video. Um,
huh?
oh wait, no, I have, I
Maybe
have, I
there is a
have.
yeah.
I forgot about it. That's a
Um,
good memory, Kyle. Well done. It's funny because in the light novel,
cool
Rudius
name.
says, "Oh, I remember this name, Nanahoshi from something." Um, yeah, that was
He's a
interesting.
Naruto fan. No,
Yeah,
I was
maybe he
obviously
does
thinking
make a
about
lot of.
Haku from Naruto, who is at the very beginning and wears a mask and is a little girl.
That's
That's
crazy,
really
Kyle.
strong and stuff like that. Yeah, it's crazy, bro.
So let's go over the recap fully, and then we'll talk about it, I guess. So Eris and Rujo are frozen in fear, and the cow throws itself off the mountain. Kyle, maybe we should talk about
Yeah,
this.
that was pretty
What a
funny.
great thing! That guy's like, I'm getting the hell out of here, and he kills himself. Jesus. So Orsted seems to know Rujo and Eris, but doesn't know anything about Rudius. And then, oh,
Yeah, we
yeah,
went
go
through
ahead.
this. I forgot. I never made a no. Go through the recap.
All right, all right.
I'll note it
Let's go
down.
through the whole thing. So Orsted asks Rudy if the words man god mean anything to him, and when Rudy says yes, Orsted goes to kill him.
Instant.
Instantly goes to kill him, yeah. Like just as he gets the words out. Orsted beats Rudyard and Eris and has a short fight with Rudius, eventually putting a hole in his chest. And then Rudy talks to the man god about dragon god Orsted, and then he wakes up having been healed by Orsted. So, yeah. A lot of stuff here, Kyle.
There's a lot of speculative things that are interesting. I think the most exciting thing anybody's ever said in this show is that Paul is only supposed to have two daughters, and I'm like, oh, it's like brand time travel shit. Holy fuck. Where clearly this dragon idiot is either he's probably not time traveling. He can probably just see the future because demon eyes can always do this. But clearly he knows this story and how it's supposed to function, and Rudius is intruding on the story, which is interesting because there is this, and I complain about the conceit thing, but there is this like ultimate like cool intrigue thing of like, is anybody ever gonna find out about the isekaiing? And for whatever reason, I just think of like, I guess maybe it's because I know it's somehow addressed in the epilogue or something because I watched an EliteAri video, but I'm thinking I can like see, what do you call words on a page? And it's like, and it's something to do with getting isekai'd or a reveal or something. And it's just this cool vision in my mind. So, and I'd completely forgotten about this, and we wouldn't have talked about it if you didn't do a fucking recap of EliteAri. So,
Yeah.
but yes, this is like the peak Kyle Entertainment interest stuff. Is I don't know what it is, but it's that line about Paul is only supposed to have two daughters. It's like there's something wrong with how the story is supposed to go, and it's an intrusion by the main character. There's something very like, I like the idea of other, it's not timelines, but other versions of the story that this is one version of the story that exists in sort of a multitude of versions of the story. The brand reference thing is in Preston's big brand series, he talks about how there's like a famous brand vision where he sees like a very tall person kissing a lady under like a werewood, and it's one of the visions he has all the time. And the common belief is that it's like Dunk the Tall, which is from the Dunk and Egg stuff and in the history, and he's like one of Brienne's ancestors. Oh, he's not that old. He's like 100 years older than the main characters. But in the Preston video, he interprets a bunch of the visions differently to be like, these are different timelines of Bran stuff, and that's actually Hodor kissing, like, because he has a wife, because there's like repeated mentions that Hodor would be a great knight if he wasn't like mentally impaired, and obviously we know Bran mentally impairs him in a time travel loop to basically have him sacrifice himself. So it's sort of like, oh, Hodor in the original timeline was a big fucking warrior and was helping Robb in a war and stuff, and this was his wife, and this is sort of like Bran's regret because he fucking did this to the dude, and et cetera, et cetera. And it's just something so fascinating about, that other story, and it's like a reinterpretation of the character. I guess this goes back into my fascination with the Spider-Man thing, where I talk about how there's like the same story elements, but they're handled in different ways. Like I talked about in that, I guess it's the newest Spider-Man one. Well, not the Spider-Verse one, but the newest Marvel Spider-Man one, where Aunt May gives the Uncle Ben speech, and it's like a little
Yeah.
difference in the way the narrative is supposed to go. That's just so fascinating to me. And like the different versions of Devilman and how they do the same thing, etc. There's a bunch of other examples of that, but like making that in your own one story here is like cool to me. And I'm like, yeah, Paul's only supposed to have two daughters. That's fucking wild. He
Yeah.
doesn't have a son. And
Like,
how
what
does
would
this
what would
prick
this
know
story
this?
look like without like Rudius? It'd be
Yes,
interesting. Yeah.
there is a version of this story that exists without Rudius, it seems.
Hmm.
And we'll probably see something like that or something at some point when we befriend this dragon dude to fight the actual bad guy.
Okay.
Um,
Interesting.
I assume that's where we're going because his girlfriend is very nice. And
Right.
even she alludes to it because another spoiler EliteAri did is that
Uh-oh.
he has the line where he reveals that Rudius nearly has the same manner as La Paz or the same manner reservoir or whatever you call
True,
it.
he does also
There's
say
something you said
that.
last time that Rujid had said,
No,
but
Kisharika.
it, oh yeah, yeah. Um,
True.
yeah, so
I guess
that's
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 probably why
obviously
they
another.
excluded it from the anime, because it's like, oh, Rigid, Orsted says it later on, so, we don't
Yeah,
really need it.
it's really cool in this instance, and it's just another in this episode. It feels like a bunch of like payoffs, but not really. That's just set
Mm,
up more mysteries of like we're tying things into lore things that are interesting. Like, oh, you're actually like the strongest boy, and then Nanahoshi later says, I can't believe I remember the name, but it's because of
nice.
that EliteAri video. She says like he could be that thing, and it's obviously some
Mm,
important fucking god deity thing. Um. At some point they say that Laplace also had green hair, and this
yeah.
is my did I figure it out that Sylphie is going to be the reincarnation of Laplace or something and be the big evil person in the end because she's not the love interest, because that would be weird. That's my prediction, because she also has silver hair now to throw us off the scent right after we talked about the green hair. That's my prediction. Uh, uh, there's
Interesting.
a bunch of speculative things that come out of this that are very interesting for the potential longevity of the series, EliteAri. Plus, he beats up all the main characters. That's pretty cool, and he's
I
really
guess,
strong.
yeah.
Oh,
Go ahead.
and another thing would be the power scaling thing, is where I speculated, I think, last time about when Rujid would get beaten because he seems like such a safety blanket, and when we rip that away,
True.
it'll obviously be a big moment. And it was. I like
Yep.
that they gave him a little bit at the beginning. That was cool. But he had also set that up previously where he's like, I probably couldn't beat. I guess it was with the dragons thing, and he also said like something with the 7 thingies or whatever. And
Yeah.
also the man god, I think it's after this, points out that the dragon dude might be number 2, but if him and number 1 fought, he would win.
Mm.
Which is an interesting thing as well. A bunch of interestings.
Another small detail that was interesting is, which I haven't brought up to you at all, which is crazy, but Orsted seems surprised that Rudius can do chantless magic. And I guess we really haven't
Yeah.
seen anyone else do it, have we? That's a question to you.
No, well, I assumed he
Well, we
was the
kind
only
of
one
have.
that could do it, but yeah.
Yeah.
Have we?
Yeah,
Did
there's
somebody else do it?
another person called Sylphiat, that
It's-
we've seen do
Oh,
chantless
yeah.
magic. Interesting.
I guess I kind of remember that.
Yeah. So.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because there was the big joke about how nobody else can do it, and Rudius was acting really cool, and then she did it. Because she's La Paz, the reincarnated, bro, and that's the
Right.
green hair, etc., etc. Because then the early thing will be even more ironic, where the kids were beating her up because they thought she was a spurd, but she actually wasn't. But she was actually the even eviler fucking spirit. Oh my god, what a final fight it's going to be between her and Rudius. My goodness. Think of all the
True.
emotions. Never seen that before, where the early it's literally Devilman, bro, where the early childhood friend is actually the big bad guy in the end. I
Crazy.
guess that's a Devilman spoiler. We're supposed to be reading that next.
Oh
I
boy.
think that's pretty evident from chapter 1, though.
So yeah. Anyway, a lot of intriguing details like that. Okay. So my actual notes here. I said this is the perfect adaptation. I said there were like 3 things that I think are perfect. This is one of them. What was it? The Kisharika thing. What else was perfect? There was something else where I was like, this is a perfect adaptation. I don't remember what it was. Kisharika and this. Great. Not necessarily. Oh yeah. It's the best directed episode as well. There's an incredibly like strong tone. The environment is very unique. There's a lot of really cool shots and insert shots, and it's really great.
Yes. I hate snow, remember, and even I thought it was cool. Plus, them being on like an undercover like cave on the cliffside, and
Yeah.
the snow ASMR, and then the bad guy's voice. It was all very, very good.
Yeah. I think something that really works well in this episode that I haven't seen throughout the show is the very specifically matched music for stuff that's going on. Like when, for instance, when Orsted like takes a step forward, like the music changes a little bit and it's like hinting that it's getting more threatening and stuff. And the music feels like it's perfectly like planned out and choreographed for every moment here, which I love.
Well,
that
I
was
can never
great.
recall music on the first time through, so I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, just say it's good,
I'm
right?
sure in
It's
the
great.
moment it added to things and was cool.
Yep. This is probably the best animated sequence with the Orsted fight with Ruja. That was also pretty awesome. I put that in my like Sakuga video I made a while ago. I love that shot. The the tension that builds. So I guess the whole conceit of this not conceit. The whole I've said that too much this video. The whole point of this, the thing that we get from this, what we derive from this episode, Kyle, is not that Rudy is going to die or Eris is going to die or anything like that, but Rudy realizing that people can die and that the people around him he sees, he actually does care about them quite a lot and he's depending on them for his own happiness. I feel like that's what I got from this episode. Do you agree with that or you got something else?
Now, this might be more melodrama, I don't like it stuff, but yes, that's obviously what's happening. There's a frustration because obviously Eris is obviously thinking about all this and this ends up in a thing later that I don't really buy or like, I guess.
Right.
I have no idea how to explain that gripe. Yes, but I don't like it for what you said. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you got a problem with something fundamental in this show that's just never going to get resolved. Maybe unless you read if you read the light novel, you'll be like, yeah, I get it. But maybe there's something here that I don't know.
It's a very storytelling way to do decisions that I think is very unrealistic, I guess, or unrelatable or unresonant. That's a word we haven't used enough, resonation. In how the way that you just explained Rudy's thought process here and Eris's thought process later with like wanting to leave because she relies on him too much or whatever she comes up with. That I think it's hard to emotionally get on the same page with or resonate with, perhaps.
Sure. Let me say that when Rudy is realizing that he cares about these people and is scared he's going to lose them all, I don't feel that emotionally at all. I just think it's really interesting.
Yeah. It's also, I think it might partially be like it's an annoying, like, yeah, of course, idiot, but also like don't admit it thing, which I think is a thing with me where I don't like, you even heard it before when I was like, friend, ill, don't say that. Where in a show, they might have a moment where two characters announce that they're friends to each other and then hug or something. Like, it's gross to me. Stop that. That might be a personal issue. This is a type of thing like that.
Well, in this case, it's not Rudy that's being...
whole thing earlier.
It's not Rudy being explicit with it. It's the story making it easy to understand, I guess. Like, Rudy doesn't go, how I miss people and I'm glad that... I'm glad we're all still here and stuff. He has a dream and he sees this motif of the dripping wine and these bubbles that are bubbling up. He doesn't. We don't get it explicitly, but the story is making it good for us to follow, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, we get small details. For instance, Rudy healing and giving the cow water at the beginning. I thought that was awesome in the opening because I love when Rudy uses his water to, survive. It's the best thing ever. Eris looking at her calloused hand when Rudius calls her a warrior. That was great. Ruijerd going. Oh yeah, I guess this is something. Yeah, how easy like Ruijerd goes on Eris at the beginning compared to how you see him like go so fast and intense against Orsted when he's fighting in his fight. That's like a really subtle thing. I like that. Then you've got Rudy. Oh, when Rudy looks at Orsted with his demon eye and he tries to see him and he can't because it's so blurry because of he's just unpredictable basically. Yeah. That was really cool. We also get lore about the red dragons we were talking about, how even the lesser of the 7 great powers wouldn't be able to fight against the flock of them basically. So these dragons are pretty strong.
And obviously, when we saw the dude earlier, he beat one up or something, or he looked at
He like
one and they
scared it
ran
off.
away.
Yeah.
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 And we made a One Piece hockey reference. Oh my god, we're so
Yeah, the
funny.
Conqueror, yeah. Now, Kyle, there is a big fight here, and I'm just going to not rant, I'm going to list through here every single thing I love about this fight, because it's probably my favorite fight of anything I've ever seen, alright? So, and I'm sure I'll make a video about this one day.
Naruto, bro.
I just love, I can't express how much I love it, and one day I'll make a video about why I love it so much, but when Ruijerd and Orsted are fighting, I love the insert shots of Orsted's hands and Ruijerd's feet, and like Ruijerd getting hit in the temple, and like I love seeing the insert shots, like cutting from the extreme motion to like just the static, simple shot of him like getting hit. I love that so much. We also get...
See, in my head, all I really remember is that they went super fast, and it looks like a Fist of the North Star thingy, and then he like punched him away.
Right. And I think it's the complete opposite, where like you got the contrast between them going fast to them cutting to those little insert shots to get like the intimate details of it. I thought it was really cool. And that's like a directing choice that I think is why I like the directing of this episode so much. There's little things like that. Then yeah, Ruijerd. I guess we also see how this is the first time we get Ruijerd going all out. And it's not like he struggled. I mean, it's not like it was a big fight or anything. He got defeated in seconds, which was crazy. We get it's like these are all very small details, but when Orsted gets the first hit on Ruijerd and he like stabs him in the stomach or something, we get this far away shot where we see both of them in the frame, and for a second it like blurs slightly and then it goes back to like normal, and I'm like, man, this is such a cool directing choice. We get the fight being so fast paced and only lasting a few seconds, but then when Ruijerd is flown into the air by like Orsted's punch, it lasts for a few seconds, and him falling in slow motion and Rudy seeing it, all of that like takes longer than the actual fight itself, which I thought was really cool, like a great contrast. The shot of Ruijerd, like we just stay on this shot after Ruijerd is on the ground. We see we see Rudy's like head peering over his body, and it just hangs on that for a second as Rudy is like trying to process what happened to Ruijerd here. Then Rudy looks up at Orsted, and it's obviously he looks really big and everything, but the music changes, and it's like it turns into music, which is like this is the final boss of the final stage of like a game or something. It's like this is the big moment of your life.
Yeah, like those Crunchyroll comments said, they just ran into the final boss too early. I bet you thought that was funny.
I didn't see that, but I don't like that, right? The zoom in, what is this? Oh, there's a really cool shot where Orsted is about to hit Rudy for the first time before Eris like steps in. And it zooms into his eye and then right back out of the reflection of his eye into Orsted's hand. I thought that was really cool. Then we get when Orsted like dismisses Eris or whatever, he uses Water God style. I thought that was really cool. But the Rudy basically he uses his demon eye and he sees that Orsted's going to grab him, and he has no idea where to attack, like where to protect basically, because no matter where he protects, an attack will get him. And he just ends up just settling by putting his hands on his head, and he has no idea what to do. And Orsted attacks him anyway. And I don't think this is included in the anime, but an interesting detail is that Orsted, I guess you can imply that you can figure this out from the anime, but Orsted basically, what's the word for it? Destroys Rudy's lungs. And he does it because he's a magician, and he assumes that he has to use his words to do magic. So that's basically Orsted's go-to thing to take out magicians, is to take out their lungs, because he doesn't know that Rudius can use voiceless magic. Which is why later on, Orsted's like, why don't you just use voiceless magic to heal yourself? And he doesn't realize that Rudy can't use the voiceless magic to heal. And he can't say it because his lungs are punctured. I thought that was a really interesting detail, which you can piece together just from the anime. Then, what else is there? Rudy's stone cannon. So that really sharp thing he shoots, and he like makes it glow and everything by spinning it so fast.
Looks like a drill.
Yeah, it looks like a drill. This is something that I think you kind of miss it because it's not in the anime. But I did mention this briefly in our last video. But throughout the entire Demon Continent trek, the stone cannon is what he kind of lazily reverts to it. Instead of using powerful spells or advanced magic or anything, he uses like this very simple, I think it's like an intermediate or like beginner level spell of stone cannon. And he practices it and he experiments with it, like, how can I make this better? And it basically becomes second nature to him over the course of this Demon Continent arc. And in this moment where he is just acting on instinct, it's the one thing he reaches to. He knows that he can use this more advanced magic. He could try something stronger, but it's like the one thing he's familiar with and is used so much, and he uses it. But this time he like goes all out. He like he makes it the maximum density, the maximum like rotation, the maximum speed. Like he puts everything into it basically. And the way it's described in the novel is great. The anime I think does a great job, but it doesn't set it up as well. Like you don't be like, oh, that's the stone cannon. He's used so much throughout this. I don't even remember a single time he's used it in the anime. That's a bit of a disappointment, but it was cool to see it.
I feel like he used it in that gallows fight.
Yeah, probably, but he doesn't like. You don't make it explicit, I guess. I don't know. It's like He doesn't be like stone cannon or whatever. But yeah, Rudy adds oxygen to his lungs. That's why he like breathes in and like puts the he uses the air magic on himself, which is a really cool detail, so that he can temporarily stay alive. Orsted using disturb magic is really cool. It's like a thing we haven't seen before. And this fact that Rudy picks it up later and is like, that was really interesting. I want to use that in the future. Really cool addition. When Orsted summons the front worm gate, and it's like, this is like a different type of magic to anything we've seen before. We haven't seen people summon things before, or this random gate. And it's like, whoa, what is this guy? Like, where did he pick this up? What is this? Really interesting. Rudy summoning the fireball, how it changes colors. You have the ominous music. It really feels like I've rewatched this a million times, but it really feels like what Rudy is doing here is dangerous and supernatural. And there's like something inherently unsettling about what he's doing here by creating this fireball with all of his mana. Yep, go ahead.
There's a cool point here in terms of power scaling where in maybe a less interesting version of this scene or a less interesting story or something, it could just be that he beats them up and everything, but there's a point here to make Rudius sort of go all out, because Rudius has sort of been powerful throughout the thing, but we've never really seen him go all out either.
Yeah.
And I feel like there is a lot of moment when you run into the big bad guy early in the story where he does beat everybody up. And it is I feel like there's a Naruto moment like this, but it is cool when he like unleashes everything and it doesn't work, but the bad guy has to use what I assume is one of his biggest weapons, which is this summoning dragon, whatever, absorbing blast thing. Yeah, because it seemed in that moment it feels like they're two ultimate attacks. And while it doesn't seem like he's like on the back foot, the dragon dude, it is like oh cool, he has to use this thing.
Yeah.
It's just a cool fight thingy too.
I absolutely agree. It is, and it's also interesting that we get that Rudy uses the stone cannon and it hits Orsted's hand and it leaves a mark, like he's bleeding, like he actually did damage him. But that's with like every single ounce of like damage that Rudy could try and muster into one attack, and even that didn't do much, but it did damage him. So it's an interesting power scaling kind of thing.
It's also important how it's like portrayed in the moment. To backtrack to the big fireball thingy or whatever, and the whatever he did, he summoned the thing. Is that the way it feels in the scene? Even if it's not explicitly said, it feels like it's their big finale meme.
Yeah. I think a big part is the music, is what I would say. Go back and listen to it. It's really great. Like the music shifts from this like battle kind of music to being this like unsettling, like there's something wrong here kind of music, which really makes it feel like something like this is the final stand here. I really like it. Okay, what else? Last note. What is this? I don't even know what this is. I guess this is just to do with the fire when he's shooting the fireball. Like you start out zooming in on him and then you zoom out and you see his hand and it's really quiet and it has that ominous music, and as soon as he shoots the fireball it's this loud roaring noise of like shooting towards Orsted. It's a really cool directing choice. Anyway, that's it. That's just me breaking down the greatest fight I've seen in my life, all the elements that I like about it. But
I think I assume when I think of the greatest fight I ever saw, it is that dumb Naruto one, and a lot of it is the emotion, though the choreography has a lot to do with it. And right now I was going to say, there's no way you actually like this fight that much. Like, you don't even really know the character at this moment. But obviously, if you're rereading it, it's a lot more charged because you understand. Especially because this dragon dude is basically all a mystery at this point. And that's part of what it makes it cool initially. On retrospect, the emotion aspect would be here. Because going into it, the emotion aspect is very much like, are they going to survive? / this is really cool. / this came out of nowhere. Whereas Obito and Kakashi is the climax of a massive character arc thingy positioned in a battle with a surprise winner, etc., etc. So it's like, I don't know.
Yep.
I assume
No, I know what you
that
mean.
it's similar to you, but I just don't understand it at this point.
Yeah, at this point
But it was very viscerally
yeah,
cool.
it is interesting. We have like we've seen a little bit of Rudius, and we've just the first time we're seeing Orsted, and it's like it's really interesting. Yeah, I can't say much. The final message: before you die, give the man god a message. Dragon god Orsted is going to kill you. So yeah, there's something. He's not very happy.
He's mad about something.
Yeah, the man god. Yeah, he talks about the incantationless magic. Did the man god give you that power? And Orsted. Oh, he talked about
that
this.
was an interesting line.
He said, "What an incredible quantity of mana. He might be on par with Laplace." We said that already. I like how when Eris, when Ruijerd is down and she thinks that Rudy is dead and she's yelling out. I like how she calls out the Ruijerd first, basically. Because it's like he's become this like hero to her, and she's like Ruijerd, and then she's like Ghislaine, and then she's like grandfather, father, mother, and then like anyone. I like that. Even I remember I also did because I reread this yesterday. That's probably why I'm bringing up the light novel so much. But she also calls out Paul in this thing. She's like talking about how anyone please, but even Paul, like someone. She's very desperate here, which is really cool.
The I guess I'm never gonna like Eris being weak. So I was like, just fix it yourself, idiot.
You know what's so funny? I'm gonna say it now because we've we're done with the anime. I don't know what you're gonna watch going forward, but it's crazy. It's because this is very early Eris, is what I'm gonna say. And it's funny how
she makes a statement at the end that she's gonna beat.
No, yeah, but the thing is, to you have an Eris in your mind, and to me, it's like you've based it on the first like chapter of like a giant story, and it's like I can't believe you built an entire character around something that changes so much, and there's so much. And when I think of Eris, I don't think of this stuff at all. Like the early stuff here is not the Eris to me. Like it's really interesting. So I don't know. I don't think you're ever gonna like her. I think it's just really interesting.
She's gonna get weaker.
No, I'm not saying anything about where she goes. I just think that you have an image of who she is, and it just isn't. It doesn't match with her at all. No matter like it's so early days, and it's completely different to what she is. And I don't think you're ever gonna change. So yeah.
But we'll have to see. Maybe she'll keep sliding down the tier list. That is
probably.
That dumb haircut ain't helping.
True. So the conversation with the man god. Let me see if there's anything we haven't talked about. The man god can't see.
Afterwards, it's kind of interesting, Rudius's demeanor. So yeah, he's sort of like not. He's kind of okay with dying or whatever. He's kind of lounging around, and he's not mad at the man god, and it's interesting.
Yeah, true. It's like even the man god points it out. It's like different to their first interaction. The man god can't see the dragon god. He can't see his present or future, so he didn't know he'd run into him here. Orsted has around 4 curses. One of them is that is hated or feared by every living creature. Laplace transferred his curse.
But it doesn't work on Rudius because he's from a different place.
Is that why it doesn't work on him? I don't know. Maybe, probably.
I think that's what they said.
Oh, okay, they did. I don't remember if they said it or not. Okay. Laplace transferred his curse of fear to the spears and has passed it on to the Superd. Laplace had green hair, and the curse has been rapidly fading since Ruijerd shaved his hair, and Rudy is basically confused. He doesn't understand how curses work. Then Technique God number 1, but if they fought, Orsted would win. Orsted has enough power to destroy the entire world, but his curses hold him back from ever using it. And then, right at the end, Rudy catches the man god, catches the fact that he's hiding something, but he lets it pass because he's like, you've helped me a lot, and you seem to like Ruijerd. So yeah. That's and then we had the wrap up. So Rudy hugging Eris. He's basically gotten a taste of what it is to like lose people he cares about. And then Eris is being candid.
See, this is the cool scene, all right? No crying. I'm saying this what would have made it cool, but there was a little bit of crying here still. If he wakes up and he just like lies on our lap, that's a good little emotional moment. Understated, subtle, crying, worried about dying when these main characters aren't going to die. No good. No more crying.
Right. Yeah, we hate crying.
No more calling for help, Eris.
How dare she? Yeah, am I right? So This is turning point 2. Now we
Will there
don't
be a
really,
turning point
we don't
3?
really, they don't say
Dot,
like,
dot,
oh,
dot.
this is what a turning point is, but I'm assuming you think it's like what do you think a turning
big
point is?
plot meme.
Yeah, sure, a big like things happen.
A turning point.
I think
in
what's
the narrative arc?
this is like a point. I wouldn't. This is not relating to why it's called turning point, but Eris is never going to be the same again after this, basically, and we find more about that afterwards about how she feels. She felt. I don't know how much the anime goes. She feels completely pointless. She can't. There was nothing she could do against Dorset, and she was relying on Rudius too much and everything. And she's gonna change her ways. Interestingly, and yeah, it's a turning point. Yeah, it's really interesting how we've heard so much about Laplace, but we haven't seen anything like directly about him. We haven't got like a glimpse into like what he looks like, or we haven't heard anyone who's met him, or unless we have.
Dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun.
So yeah. But now, that's turning point 2. Now we have the rest of this story, basically, besides the OVA, which is the return to Fittoa. So, do you want to talk about it, or should we give a recap and then talk about it? What do you think?
A recap, I guess.
Okay,
For a
so
second, I was
Rudy.
like, what does he want to talk about? But no,
Rudy
yeah,
has a
that-
dream with everyone he's met throughout his new life. Rudy talks to Ruijerd about the man god, and Ruijerd cries when he hears he can clear his name through his hard work. Dead End returns to the destroyed Fittoa.
That was
and
an
we
okay
see...
cry.
It was? Okay, good. I'm glad to hear.
There
Look
was
at that.
no audio to it. That's the
Yeah.
big thing.
He like turns away and quietly cries to himself. That's the type of crying Kyle likes. The nice unhealthy crying. All right.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want whimpering anime mouth noises. Ugh.
Right. So Dead End returns to a destroyed Fittoa, and we see Rudius' old house and the tree that he and Sylph used to study magic under. And then Ruijerd leaves.
There's a big part of the point is that there's like a big like line where clearly it's stopped, and it's pretty good. It's like destruction and greenery on each side.
Yep. Really cool. But yeah, so Ruijerd leaves. I guess we can talk about this at this
point.
Oh,
I had a turning point meme.
Go ahead.
To backtrack. A turning point could also be big changes in our fake timeline thing, where maybe in a previous thing the mana disaster didn't happen or something, and there was a turning point 0, and that was when Rudius was born and he fucked up the timeline at the beginning, and then him interacting with Orsed or whatever the fuck is turning point 2. So it's like
I guess what have been.
things.
Do you remember what turning point 1 was?
Yeah, when the fucking explosion happened.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, cool. You remember, right? And then turning point 2 was.
Didn't I just say the mana disaster?
I don't know. I didn't. Or maybe you did.
But that was a thought I had.
Cool. I like
why it could be called turning point.
Okay. What did you think when Ruijerd left? How did it feel? Did that get you emotional?
Oh, this is one of my 3 notes.
All right.
The show is very liberal with the characters coming and going in a hurtful way. It is interesting because characters aren't really dying in this show. But they are leaving and breaking up a lot. And every time it happens, because sometimes in stories you're just like, oh, they'll be back and it'll be fine. But every time like we have split up or moved into a different section of the story, and the last like 12 episodes or so, or maybe more, has been the Eris, Ruijerd and the Dead End, whatever part of it. And they've been sort of a group for like the whole second half of the thing. And before that, it was Ghislaine. And I remember thinking at each point, like, oh, this is like our main 3, like Ghislaine, Eris and Rudy are going to be the basically the main 3 characters throughout the whole story. And before that with Paul and Lilia, etc. And every time, like, it never goes back to the way it was. So it is sort of like an ending type, like, death of this part of the story thing.
Yeah.
So it's pretty good.
Good.
It's interesting. Well, they do it a lot. A lot of goodbyes and separations and yeah.
So to completely oppose your good old analysis here, I don't care. I just felt it emotionally, right? When Ruijerd leaves, I felt bad because I'm like, oh man, we've had him so long, and now what's life going to be like without him, you know? I just felt really bad. It got to me emotionally. So yeah.
Yeah, I felt it a little bit. You know, I'm a little something.
Love it. All right, so then... Let me see. Did I write anything about Ruijerd? No, okay. Rudy and Eris arrive at the Fittoa restoration camp, and we find out that Eris's entire family is dead. She sends everyone away, and she cries by herself. Do you want to comment on this or anything before we move on? Because
this
this
is
is
another plot beat
were
that I
you
feel like
expecting this? I guess when she's being very mature, she's
yeah,
way different,
that's a
obviously, to before. Yeah,
that character always does that in that situation. It's a thing I've seen before, EliteAri. So yeah, when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is another similar thing.
right. And you like it
It's
or you
not an
don't like
Oscar
it,
thing though. I was, I guess I don't like it.
right? And you
Um,
don't like it because you've seen it before, or do you have a reason for not liking it?
no, well, I think part of it is like oh, this thing again, but I also don't think it's a realistic thing in terms of interaction. Um, I don't know.
Okay.
But I didn't really think about this part too much. I don't think in real life a person ever does this, and I feel like it's such a character moment
So you
thingy of
don't
like,
think that a
oh look,
person
the hothead
who's
is
lost her entire family has now a moment of like seriousness and
no, but that's not
tries
what
to.
the moment is
What is the
really. The
moment?
moment
Describe
is
it. Go
look
ahead.
at the hothead character. She used to be such a hothead, and now she's in a serious situation, and she's not being that. That's sort of the approach I'm coming at it with. Um,
And
Plus
you think that's
she
not
keeps talking
realistic?
about, and it's well, I feel like it's such a tropey story thing where it's like devoid of reality, and that's why it's a bad
So
tropey
you say
thing.
you think it's not
But honestly,
realistic,
I
is what
didn't
you just
think
said,
this
right?
much. I mean, kind of, but there's a difference between how people usually talk about realism, as in like the rain didn't happen right,
Right.
and between interpersonal interactions, which I think are actually uh, worth being realistic, I guess. But not
So you
always.
wouldn't.
It
You're
could work.
saying. So you're not saying it's the realistic is the issue. You're saying the relatability is the issue.
Probably resonance. That's the word we keep saying, right?
Okay.
But that could just be everything because I didn't like the scene, so obviously.
Right.
Um, or the moment. The scene was fine. The another part of the like I've seen this before thing is uh the harem thing where the other grey rat, I don't know if it's Paul's dad or whatever that we set up at the beginning, was it?
Palemon. He would be Paul's brother, I think.
Brother, yeah, whatever. Paul's side of the family. We don't like him and he wants to fuck Eris, and we don't like that because she's young. But we'll get to that in a second.
Right.
Um, did you say why or
No, I said right. I was sarcastically agreeing with you.
yeah, yeah. Um, fuck, what was I up to? Oh, the harem thing. I feel like I've seen this exact scene before. That was part of the thingy.
Okay, you keep bringing it up. You brought this up a million times, right? In all of our discussions, you say I've seen this before. This is very generic, whatever. What's the point for you of bringing that up? Why do you bring it up?
Because it's what I felt at the time that made me dislike it,
Right, so it is why you dislike it.
or at
It's
least
like it's not
part of it.
original. You want it to be original, is what you're saying.
Well, I don't know. If it wasn't original and I liked it, then I would say I can't determine what I like and dislike.
Right. Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
I don't think I had anything else to say. Oh, this. No, I don't know what I was gonna say.
All right. Well, Kyle is on his phone now because his battery died. But we were just talking.
No.
No, yeah, he's the exact same. You're right. I can't tell the difference. So what were we even up to? So we're talking about Eris crying and not crying. Yeah, crying to herself, basically.
Well, we were talking about the genericism of the scene, though we decided not to use that word earlier. But then I came to a non-conclusion and was confused, and I don't remember it now. So
I think we're running into, and we will continue to run into this in this and any other series we do going forward, which is that when we disagree about why we like something, it's impossible to convince the other person that we either like it or don't like it. So it's kind of like pointless, you know? It's like that subjectivity thing you were talking about earlier, where it's like, if someone, like, what was it, Kraftstorf or something, where it's like, if you don't like it, then what am I meant to say, you know?
you're not interested, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it's a thing that will, yeah.
It's pointless, but it might be fun.
Well, it might be fun if you're on the end of not liking it, but if you're on the end of liking it, then it's like, what am I meant to do, you know?
Yeah.
I
mean, only if you feel the need to defend it. I feel like if I was in your position, I'd just say, you're a fucking idiot and do a funny meme.
No, that's all good and well to do, but then you're just gonna, like, how many times do you think you brought up genericism? And what am I meant to say to it, you know, every time? Like, I have no idea. Like, I completely understand why you're bringing it up. But it's like, I don't know what to say. So I think that's my like point to say to your generic point. I could argue about like,
is it that,
I
or
don't
is
even.
it are you slightly frustrated that I don't like it?
No, well, I mean, I'd prefer if you liked it, but I think I'm slight because I've disagreed. Obviously, I disagree with you on Chainsaw Man, but it doesn't bother me there because I feel like you have interesting reasons for why you don't like things. But it's tough because I just get the feeling that you, not you, but maybe it is you. I don't know.
It's always me.
I don't think the genericism is why you don't like it. It feels like there's something else which is going on which I can't explain, which probably is the fact that it just doesn't emotionally resonate with you. I don't think it has anything to do with being generic. Is what and it's like frustrating to hear it because it feels like you're saying that because it's not original, I don't like it. And I feel like what you're saying is that
well, no, it's because it's fundamentally the backtracking thing. Because it's I don't like it because I don't like it. Why don't I like it?
Yeah.
And the best reason I can come up with is that. And you always do that thingy where you whittle it down. But
there is no whittling it down because like all I would have to say is like, are there any other stories which are generic which you like? Like for instance, you were comparing like when Casca and Guts, they like Guts goes his own way and then he comes back at the end of Golden Age and then they fight and then they have sex, right? That's pretty generic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you like that and you don't say, "Oh, it's generic, I don't like it," because the
But
genericism isn't a big deal to you.
I think the fundamental thing is the characters, right? Because it's not so much the plot beats that are generic, though I guess I could dislike something, I don't know, for its plot beats being generic. But there it's the characters that carry that stuff. Like, it's just a structure. Like, who cares about that?
What's unique about the characters in that situation? Guts has gone through a journey and he's come back. Casca has felt alone and now she has someone back. What's unique there?
I mean, it's how they talk. It's how they are characterized. It's their little nuances, etc., etc.
And then I would ask examples, but you're not going to have them, yeah. So this is why it's frustrating to talk about genericism because there's no like debate to be had because it's like you need examples for this.
It's because the Chainsaw Man comparison. This is all getting kept in, right?
Yeah. Unless you want it out.
Yeah. No, this is good. Because the Chainsaw Man example is interesting because the genericism is I've seen it before more than the generic, which I guess they're the same thing. It isn't. If I had examples, it would be much, I guess, better conversation. Because in the Chainsaw Man one, it wasn't like this where you had to find examples from other things. It was just sort of like you can explain it, or I can explain it better.
Like our disagreement there was about the adaptation, and that was about a thing we were both seeing. So you couldn't be like there was nothing to debate there, where it's like we have to refer to some extra textual thing. We just had to talk about the text. In this case, it's tough because it's like generic is a very thing.
Because it's literally like my perception of everything I've ever seen that has given me an understanding of how certain stories are structured and certain tropes within them and how that manifests into a viewing experience of something new. I do think I value uniqueness a whole lot, especially, but the problem, like, and again, we both understand the subjectivity of this, I guess, but I value uniqueness, but only uniqueness to me. Like, if I had never seen any of the stories that this reminds me of, then obviously this would be the first time, and it wouldn't come off as generic. And to somebody that hasn't seen anything like that, it wouldn't come off as generic, or I've seen it before, and it's all highly personalized. But also, I had a quip because you were saying, what other stories do you like that are generic? And I was going to say, well, I like Mushoku Tensei good enough.
Very funny, Kyle. Well done.
There are, because the last, I guess we're going to talk about that when we get to it. This Eris example is such a small thing, though. I literally thought about it for as I was watching it and then never again. But it was, I guess I just have to figure out what it reminds me of. But I don't think I literally ever will or could.
And then,
because even if
because I keep like when you say that and you're like, if I can find what it reminds me of, then I can say that the other version was better. Is basically what you're saying to me. What I hear. Which to me is just like, why? If you do the same thing again, then it doesn't have to be like you can be good. Like just because it's the same thing doesn't make it worse.
Yeah, but it's not. To me, it's not good. That's like the fundamental first part. I guess it's not. Maybe it is. It's not that it's not good. Not.
Okay.
The Because when I'm thinking of what else does it, like it's not an Ava thing where it's like, oh, I love Ava and it already did it. The other thing I think is another generic kind of thing. Because I think with this example, it's that I don't like it. It's not that it's been done before. Which I guess was your point the whole time. But with the other things, I think it might have been the genericism thing, but I can't even remember the other examples, let alone what the other examples were predicated on from other examples. But yeah.
Okay. Well, let's keep going then. So later that night, she has the thing, and later that night, she goes to Rudy's tent and wants to have sex with him. Rudy is hesitant, and eventually they have sex. So yeah, there you go, Kyle. You talked about how this would be the worst thing ever. This shouldn't happen. He should get with Roxy because they're the same age. What do you think? What's going on here?
Well, don't say that like they're not getting with Roxy towards the end. There's a few interesting things about this. Before we get into the pedo debate and the Crunchyroll comments and all that hilarity, I will say this is a rather unique thing. I did not expect it at all. Well, in the episode at some point I figured out this was probably where we're going, but as a plot point I didn't expect it. Which I will say is the case for a lot of the last two episodes we have to talk about. I was going somewhere first before I went to these things, but now I've thought about these things. When she said she was 15, it did come as a shock, and I'm like, no, she's not. And then I was like, I guess it's a little bit less bad. Let's talk about when we talked about this far out. I think I came to the conclusion that the Roxy one was where we were going because it was safer because they're both mentally older than they look, and therefore it's not bad. But this also is, again, the problematic sexual thing is like, is the author even concerned with being bad? Does he even understand that it's bad?
Yeah.
Et cetera, et cetera. I'm still, what do you call it when you're undecided? I guess undecided about which part I'm coming down on. The 15 does change it a little bit for me, where it's like, and especially and I guess this is probably why they established that 15 is adulthood, to try and maybe be like, well, in the world, it's okay because she's an adult, and it's like the equivalent of being 18. So there's also why is pedophilia bad? And it's not just because somebody looks young, obviously, because if somebody looks young but they're actually 21, people I don't think are ever going to get outraged about somebody sleeping with them. Even the very special cases of certain people that have like developmental disorders or whatever, where their like growth is stunted and they look like 8-year-old. There's like I feel like there's a reality show of like a girl that looks like she's 8 years old and she has boyfriends and stuff, and sure, people probably look at them weirdly, but fundamentally I think nobody's accusing those people of pedophilia.
Or doing a wrong.
The point is,
committing.
The point is that
go ahead.
Yeah, the point is that the reason why we have an age of consent at all is is basically because there has to be a point at some point where we understand there's a power imbalance that's fundamentally immoral. Where like if there's like a 32-year-old very very sexually experienced sort of and a general adult, and they're like hanging out near a high school to like pick up virgin girls because they like them, who are 15, then this is probably something that is very predatory because they're going to know what they're doing. The girls are not going to know what they're doing, et cetera, et cetera. Now, most people's understanding of the age of consent is probably just kids gross, don't want to fuck, people who fuck them gross kill, because we like to kill pedophiles, which is not very helpful. And also, I'm pretty sure the age of consent where both of, well, not where you live anymore, though. I think American states all have different ages of consent or something. I'm pretty sure the age of consent in Australia is 16, which is not that far away from 15. So this all comes into it. I still think it's probably bad. The big problem here is obviously the grooming angle. Is that he's been 30, well, I guess he's still aging mentally too. Is that he's known her since she's like was 8 years old or whatever, or he was 8 and she was 10, and he was equally as weird back then, to the point where it basically disqualifies it. So that's where I would come down. There was a step of it being a good thing or a bad thing. There was a step between there that I wanted to go to before we got to that part. So I guess he's a pedophile. Now, the Crunchyroll comments were funny because half of them were shitting on Eris for leaving the next morning and being like, I hate this dumb bitch. Why'd she leave? And it's so obviously like sour grapes of like something that's could happen to them. It's just like it's like some of the Sakura hatred about like, why would she play with his feelings like that? And that big Naruto moment that the audience understands, but EliteAri doesn't right now, and they're all going, "Yes, Carl, you're so smart. Oh my goodness." What point was I building to? Oh, and all the other comments are either like, like begging to be taken out of context and put into a thing of all weebs are pedophiles as they try to justify this, and the other ones are like, man, y'all are revealing yourselves as pedophiles here. 150 upvotes, and then the defending the relationship thing, 200 upvotes, and it's like, oh my god. It was pretty funny, but yes,
it's a controversial anime, Kyle.
Yes.
So
grooming is bad.
You were talking about what is grooming.
What is grooming? I have no idea. Hold on. It's such a hypothetical circumstance, huh? Because this is unreplicatable, but ideally, if your principle is strong enough, it should be able to hold up to the hypothetical. I don't think a 32-year-old who spent 22 years in his room is allowed to fuck a 15-year-old. Now, grooming comes into play because this 32-year-old was then reincarnated into a little boy's body and then got to mentally navigate situations with her while the whole time saying he wanted to be in a relationship with her, while also trying to groom a different girl. That's Sylphie, for those keeping up. It has displayed a pattern of behavior that leads into bad. He bad, this bad, you bad, EliteAri.
Okay.
Did that answer the question? What is grooming? I don't know. Don't ask me for definitions about things.
Well, okay. Let me think. Grooming. So that would be if Rudy was intentionally manipulating Eris to have sex with him eventually. I say that would be grooming, right? Like you have to, you should be doing it with intent. I feel like is the important thing. Like for instance, one thing is that specifically when I don't think I brought this up, but back when in the first part of this, first few episodes, Rudy specifically says that he wants to groom Sylphie. He says it. He's like, I can groom her to be my perfect wife. This will be great. He never does it. That's the thing. He never does it. He says it, and he never acts
gets
on
the
it.
opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. He never gets the
like
opportunity is taken from him. Yeah, exactly.
I think you still get an attempted murder charge for this if it's about murder.
No, because it's in your mind is the thing. He didn't act.
Well,
on it.
yeah, but we. See,
I think that's an important thing.
No, I don't think it is, because the whole point in real life is you can't prove what somebody is thinking, but in an internal monologue situation, we can literally hear it. So I think that's a bit different. But
Yeah,
on the grooming thing,
no. We're not moving on from that because I gotta clarify myself before I get cancelled, right? So I think the difference is that in that situation, we know what was going through his mind, and it was unambiguously bad. All right. If he said that out loud, or for instance, or if anyone knew what his thoughts were, yeah, he should be punished. But the thing is, he has those moments, and in that moment, it's a bad thing. He doesn't act on it. Therefore, it was just a thought he had, and he never acted on it. So in the future, we shouldn't punish him for a thought he had that he didn't act on, even though the thought itself was bad. You shouldn't punish people based on thoughts they had in the past if they've changed their mind on things. All right. That's what I would say about Sylvain. But go ahead. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot my original point, but I'm on a different one now. Yeah. Or maybe I've lost that one too because of my tangential joke. I think desire and intent is interesting because I've said that a few times and I've only thought through it now.
Actually, another thing I should say is that I think the intent isn't the issue. It's the fact that his desire changed as well. First, he didn't act on it, and also his desire changed, where he didn't want to groom anymore. Like, he doesn't come. We don't ever hear him saying that kind of stuff anymore. Well, when was the last time he said he wants to do something?
Sylphie's out of the.
No, sorry, not about Sylphie. That got taken away, the opportunity or whatever. But for the Eris stuff, like, when has he ever brought it up ever? Yeah, he wants to shape her to be like this person he can have sex with.
Yeah, I remember my original point. It is. Eris is very proactive in this. In the moment, which is something I didn't bring up and I actually wasn't thinking about until you. I thought that's where you were going, but then you went a different direction. Yep. And then she says the meme, kind of not meme, I want to have your kittens meow thing. And basically the point, I think the point is that he's in control and then he loses control in that moment.
Yep.
I think it's still his moral responsibility to keep control in that moment.
Sure, I would probably agree. Yeah.
I have an anecdote that I don't want to do on the recording.
Okay. Sure.
That makes me sound really bad. But I promise you it makes me look really good, EliteAri.
Okay, that's good to hear.
But yeah. Fuck. Now I'm only certain. Theoretically, EliteAri, if you worked at a workplace, and said workplace had many different people of different ages, and some were underage and you weren't, and some were women and you weren't, and naturally you're around each other and you become friends. It is still something that you must keep. What do you call it? Not control of. You must keep in mind at all times that especially 16-year-old, 17-year-old girls will very easily give you attention if you're like 20 in these places, especially when they're that age and they're sort of desperate for validation or to seem mature.
Yep.
And even if you even if you have not much experience in this regard, I think it's still very easy and very responsible, or it's your responsibility still to fend off any such advances, and even to, because nothing's, obviously this is about me, chat. I don't know if you picked that up. But yeah, it's never gotten to anywhere close this situation, but you can sort of tell when like flirting is happening, and it's sort of, it is, I think, easy to navigate your way out of that, if not have a direct conversation about don't do that. And you can, even if you're good enough, figure out a way to do it without embarrassing the other person. These are all things that I have navigated, I think, pretty well. In my recent work life. And I feel like I'm disappointed in young Rudius here, and feel like he should have, there is every step of the way where he has been anyway flirty or he jerked off when he saw her boobs the one time on the boat, etc. These are all already like negatives in the corner to call into question his character to end up in this situation. So I think it's all a build up, is what I'm saying. Is that if he was the ideal moral agent like myself, I'm ideal and the most morally sound person you'll ever meet.
Yep.
He would have shut this down long ago. But he did not take those steps. In fact, I would say he lightly encouraged them in many ways, and in some ways probably strongly encouraged them. And this all calls into question in building the case against him in this moment. Plus, what really doesn't make it good is that right after, like, we have the scene of them falling to sleep together, and then he wakes up and it's the adult dude cheering himself on, and it's like,
Yeah.
bad vibes. And this is also I guess this is a more interesting story, and it's more interesting to talk about because of this element, and we're going back to the conceit thing. But, like, I could very easily see this being a sort of very sweet moment. This is kind of what I used to ask for in, like, that Gudrid video about fleshing out relationships and it being built up and then actually getting a payoff in a sex scene, etc. And it's like, oh, maybe if it wasn't an isekai, it would be better again, is kind of the light point I'm making there. Though I don't know how much I actually think that. I don't know, it's interesting. Another very interesting thing is that Eris sort of, like, still worships him afterwards. Now, obviously, she doesn't dislike him, and that's why she leaves. That's made it evidently clear. But it's kind of weird. I don't know if I've ever seen a relationship in fiction where, like, Eris is kind of acting like the girl, and maybe this is where we're going, and it might actually be an indication of where we're going, of the girl that's, like, overly likes the protagonist that doesn't end up with him, because the other girl that pretends not to like him will end up with him, though Eris was kind of that at the beginning, because she was kind of tsundere-ish, Oscar-ish at the beginning. That's a completely different conversation. I don't know why I started that one now. But yeah. Back to the is he a pedo thing.
Well, that's not the question. Yeah, the question here is, when you're watching this scene, has he done something in the story that you think is bad or irredeemable, kind of? Is this a bad thing he's done, or is this a neutral or okay thing he's done?
I think it's probably a bad thing.
Okay, so why is it a bad thing is the question.
In the moment, I will say it does, and that's why I started off with, like, she did say she was 15, bro. Of the, like, in the moment, you do feel an emotional thing for the characters that isn't wholly negative. But it is undercut by, like, the searing reminder of, like, 40-year-old man. So your question is, why is it a bad thing?
Yeah, why is
you
it
asking
bad,
emotionally or?
Well, whatever. When you're watching it, what sticks out to you as being bad? I don't know. It could be emotional, could be logical. I don't know.
Well, I guess it's just that he's 40 years old. Well, I guess the question to you is, how is it different to a real life? If this was to happen in the Japan Mushoku Tensei rather than the does this world have a name?
We don't know a name for it.
Okay, we can't say it. Yes, okay.
Yeah.
In Planetos over here versus Japan.
So how is it different? I would say that you can't compare it to reality, because in reality you never have a correct insight into someone's mind. We have to have certain rules in reality, because you can never understand what someone truly wants and what the way they're acting, what are their intentions behind them. And I feel like in this story, maybe you have a case for the anime, because we don't truly understand what's going on in his mind, whereas in the light novel you obviously get a direct thing into what he's thinking. So I don't know. I guess I would say that it's an extreme scenario that never happens in real life, so you can't compare it. Like a guy who, for all intents and purposes, narratively, we have to treat it as though he never had an experience, but he is still mentally a teenager. He never got to have any life experience beyond that.
I don't like this part of the reasoning.
Go ahead.
I don't think you are emotionally stunted just because you stay inside. I guess this is just a personal experience thing, and I've said this like a million times, especially to you. Where I said, like, when I stayed inside and made YouTube videos for 3 years, I would say I matured probably I guess I didn't just stay inside a lot. I spent a lot of my time inside, so I guess it's not entirely comparable. But I think I say this to Minty all the time, where I'm like, I feel like that first year I stayed inside, like all my social phobias went away. And like I'm never nervous to like talk to like a cashier or something like you would be when you were like 15 or something. But that I think that's maybe just it can't literally just be a getting older thing. Like there has to be some sort of experience that comes with that. But it is literally like he stayed inside the whole time.
I also don't think it matters if he stayed inside the whole time. I think it matters that, in my opinion, that's what the story is trying to say, even if it doesn't succeed at it. Like, I think when I see it, I don't think I'm meant to question the things you're questioning now about, oh, you can develop when you're inside or whatever. I think that the story is taking it as a given, where it's like, because he stayed inside, he didn't develop. I think that's what we're meant to take. I don't think we're meant to see Rudius and think he's a very well-developed person with the mental maturity of a 40-year-old. I think we're meant to see him as a stunted individual who still is stuck in those high school days of trauma. Yeah, which is an extreme scenario that would never happen in real life. It happens in fiction, which justifies the point of this story, like telling this story. Yeah.
I wonder if the author thinks that's through, or if he just thinks
I don't
it's
know.
like, oh, it's 15, it's not that bad. I know that's a different conversation, but yeah. Fuck, there was somewhere I wanted to go before that, but I've forgotten it. So
I should also say that obviously this is a big point of discussion in the
that's what I was going to
community.
ask. If like, is there massive videos about this?
What I was going to say is that I have never. This is not an interesting part of the story to me, so I've never looked into it. I honestly have no idea what people are going to... I have no idea what the comments are going to say about this. I got no idea. This is just my thoughts about, like, when I watch it. Like, the elements of the story that I prioritize are not this part of it. The bigger deal for me in this scene is the fact that Rudius doesn't want to have sex here. Like, the fact that, I think that's a big part of, his growth, I guess. The fact that it's not his number one priority anymore. He doesn't want to have sex with Eris because he doesn't want to take advantage of her. That's the character focus that I have. Rather than any moral kind of higher level stuff. Anyone who's listening and is triggered right now, let me just say that none of what I'm saying applies to the real world, right? This is a story, and it's a very abstracted story as well. So yeah.
I mean, but I feel like I'm pigeonholing you, but couldn't it apply to the real world? Like somebody that stays inside?
No, because when you stay inside, you are developing, like you said. I think we're meant to assume that he isn't. Like, it's a false assumption we're meant to make. It's an idea that the story is conveying. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
I guess this is your Femto is a different person.
Yeah, this will be my... I'm not defending this take. If people argue with me, I don't care. I will fold my opinion right here, right? It's not... I don't strongly believe this. This isn't a big part of my interpretation of Mushoku Tensei. So I'm not... Yeah. So yeah, should we move on? All right, so... Rudy wakes up. Eris has cut her hair and she's all alone. Oh, and he's all alone for the first time in his new life. He doesn't know what to do, so he just walks around and eventually breaks down crying while keeping walking aimlessly, basically. So did you cringe here as well? He's crying. Oh my god, can't handle it.
No, I don't remember this crying. I wonder if this happens regularly in real life. I feel like it probably happens with hookups a lot, but I wonder if one day, because this isn't just a hookup, though I guess literally it was. Because this is like a narrative thing, or a thing you've seen before, perhaps, but in a very different regard, where it's like, this happens in stories quite a bit, where somebody wakes up and it's usually the mysterious cool girl is gone or something. I wonder how much... I don't think this all comes from authorial personal experience. I don't know. It's just interesting. Like one day your girlfriend just walks out on you and you never see her again. Obviously they're going to see each other again eventually, but, and just leaves a note. I guess it's the Casablanca scene on the train, at the train station, where it comes with a note and everything too. I don't know. It's just a funny little trope. Like I wonder what you would do in this situation if it happened. And hopefully you're not fucking a 15-year-old girl.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a funny little thing.
All right. So then...
Couldn't he find her pretty quick and just run after her or something?
It's probably been quite a while, I
Yeah, a
don't know.
couple hours. I guess Ghislaine would beat him up and say, "Don't follow."
Yeah. Um, and also the fact that she doesn't want him there is the big deal. Like, I don't think he would
Yeah,
want to go to her because she clearly doesn't want him there, and he doesn't know why. By the way, he has no idea why she's left.
yeah.
For all he knows, I won't talk about. We obviously we're going to continue this story in season 2. Who knows? We'll see where that goes. So yeah, we do actually get a few scenes of Eris, which we've talked about throughout this, where it's basically she basically, the run in with Orsted made her realize how reliant she is on Rudius, and how whenever she's in trouble, she'd like think, oh, don't worry, Rudius will figure a way out. As long as he's here, everything will turn out all right. And so she realizes how dependent and how reliant she is on him, so she decides to go on her own path and try and become as strong as him, basically, and be his equal. And maybe one day she will come and protect him instead of relying on her to protect him, to protect her, basically. Yeah. Which, and particularly, one line I really liked was, I don't know why I like it so much, but when she said Rudius's hands were smaller than mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really, I don't know what it is about it, but that really got to me.
It's this actually didn't remind me about anything until I said it, and it's not in the same context, so it isn't another thing like I don't like it. But Casca says that about Griffith, like, oh, his hands are so
yeah,
small.
true. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is, I do remember that as well. And I did like that. It's a very different context, but yeah, cool.
I guess it is both a moment of like, well, I want to protect him instead of the other way around.
Yeah, but I think very superficially, it's a similar moment. But the difference is that Casca is saying it out of pity, and kind of, pity and sadness, I would say. Whereas Eris is saying it kind of, out of understanding that Rudy is not as confident as he seems, and he is. So he is inside. He is not this person that she sees him as. But even still, he is still as powerful and strong, and like it's like saying something about Rudy as a character in a positive way, rather than what Casca was saying about Griffith in a negative way.
It is very interesting, and I already said this, but the worship kind of direction, and it because it's in the OVA a lot too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have anything else to say about it. It's just interesting, I guess.
Okay.
We'll see where it goes.
Yeah, we talked about the hair thing. So in the final episode, we intercut between Rudius trying to process his situation and thinking back to his previous life, and all the people whose lives were touched by Rudius in this new world, all because he took that step beyond his home with Roxy's help. That's basically the framing of this last episode. It's like we got Rudius on one hand, and on the other hand, we're cutting between all the people he's touched, basically. Which is an interesting framing. Yep.
The ending part and him walking out of the, like, past the gate, past his tied up self. They tied him up in front of his own house. The funny bullying meme gets even funnier.
I didn't even realize that. Was that his own house?
Well, like when he walks out the front gate, he walks past himself tied to the gate.
Oh yeah, sure, okay, yeah.
I was gonna say this is all very good stuff. I liked this maybe the most out of anything in the show was the intercutting here. And the match cuts, huh?
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about the intercutting with the other characters who we're catching up with before the season ends. I'm talking about he's depressed in the present, depressed in the past. Is this where we get the food thing? I don't remember if it is.
The food thing?
The food thing that I liked from earlier with in the real life, and they wanted to take the food up to him.
Yeah. It is. This episode is all of that stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's not the video game stuff that I likened it to earlier, but yeah. That's in an earlier episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of that stuff was good.
Yep.
I felt like an emotional triumph at the end because I thought it was going to be. It was another thing where I saw it was going. I was like, oh no, this is another Paul moment. He's going to stand up and be like, I have to do this, and I cringe, seen it before.
Yep.
But yeah, it was cool instead. It emotionally resonated, and I was like, yeah, walk outside.
True.
I don't remember specifically what made me like it as much. Again, I think I'd have to go back and look at it.
Um,
But I liked it.
should we talk about it? Yeah, well, we haven't got to that in the recap yet. When we get to it, we'll talk about it. So we get a few scenes. Oh, we get the two scenes. We basically get Eris and Ruijerd as well. We get Eris going off to get stronger, but we also get Ruijerd, who's like being thanked by people and seeing
he's
how his
helping
reputation
people.
has been improved. That's great. Then we get, before we talk about everything else, we get Roxy drinking with Kishirika, who said that all the drinks were on her, but then Roxy has to bail her out, which is awesome. And I thought that was great. I just like their interactions together.
Every
Kishirika
time
is one of the best. I enjoy
or
her.
whatever. Yeah, she's in the S tier, all right.
Oh, I'm so glad. All right. Yeah. So then, and Kishirika also out drinks Talahan. That was great, and he's like spitting up his alcohol. That was awesome. But as a reward, she finds out where Zenith is basically, but she can't see her.
And it's very cool.
He's masking her away.
And ominous and mysterious, and there is like a cool moment where I think Gangbang Girl is just like she sort of has the realization out loud. I didn't hear her name. Where she what was I saying? Oh, she realizes, like, how come Zenith, if she's like a magical girl, hasn't sent a message to us or anything? It's just sort of like an obvious, that means she's probably in a fucked up situation. That's ominous. And then we see or we might have seen it before, but the crazy shit happening, and it's or we don't see anything happening, but it's like underwater and then like a cave thingy. It's like she's probably in some fucked up place that we're gonna have to break her out of or something.
Yeah, maybe.
And there's also like a scene in that episode, right, where Rudy, like, it's like a flashback to them all hanging out, and Rudy's like talking about how much he loves his mum or something. Oh no, she says I love you back.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Actually, that's exactly my next point here, which we'll talk about. So Rudy remembers a happy time from when he was a young child, practicing the sword with Paul in the rain, surrounded by his big family and 2 newborn sisters, and Zenith tells him that she loves him. So this is basically there's a few things that push him to get up and actually go forward. I think I've structured this better in my notes. Let me look where I wrote about this. So there's a bit of character stuff. So what can I say? We touched on this way earlier in this story. Like when you brought up that example of the people downstairs saying, "Can we go give this to the man upstairs or whatever?" And his parents are like, "Oh no, don't do that." And I think this is a big thing because we also get a flashback in this episode where his parents are outside his room and they're saying, "We're going to go talk to the school. We're going to get this guy expelled. Don't worry, son. I know you're strong. You're my son. All of my children are strong." And I think that's the big mistake that they made. And I think it's contrasted directly with Alphonse coming in and pushing him to basically get up. He comes in and he's like, "I understand you're going through things, but there's a lot of shit we have to do, basically. Like, you're taking up a space which could be for someone else. And everyone is struggling more than you. Like, you're not the only one struggling." And I think that's not that approach, but I think being directly confronted by his parents, instead of them being distant and giving him room to get over and everything, and saying he is strong, even if he doesn't feel it, I think that's the kind of difference that made him get up here, whereas he didn't in the previous life.
There's also the additional embarrassment of your parents trying to bail you out of a social
absolutely. Yeah.
Like
they're the one, they're going to go and get him expelled. And it's like, man, that doesn't help.
And tell everybody about it. And
yeah. So it's like like this one scene of Alphonse, just, it's very impactful for me. But the other aspect of him getting up is this scene with Zenith where he sees that, where he remembers this time he was happy and she told him that he loved her. She loved him. And it's like, he's not getting up because he's better. He's not getting up because he feels better and he thinks he's getting over this depression and he can move forward or anything. He's getting up to help someone, basically. He's getting up for Zenith, who clearly loves him. He's getting up to kind of save her. And it's interesting because to you it's like a triumphant moment, but it is a triumph, definitely. The fact that he got up where he never did in the previous life, but he is still depressed. It's only the first step, basically, is what I would say. And it is, like, I think that was the episode title was, What was it? Let's have a look. Wake up and take a step, basically, and I think that fits very well to what happened here.
Yeah, it's also it's the definitive proof that the character has changed because from his previous self, and it's in the final episode, and it's like the big narrative arc of the season or whatever.
Yeah, and Ig Studio, or whatever. I really like the part of their video. They talked about how he right now is back at the same place he was when he was in his previous life, basically. And so every step he takes going forward now is new to him. Like, this is a new part he hasn't experienced. Everything in this story so far has been him getting to that same point, and now with his new experiences, he can see what he's going to do going forward.
Yeah, it's also how we avoid the waking up in real life and continuing on thing. Yeah. Fuck, there was something else. Oh, I think a Crunchyroll comment, Lamau,
oh boy,
said something about the voices towards the end, and like we might not get the internal monologue from like the 30-year-old anymore or something. The comment alluded to. Right. But now that I'm thinking that this is a visual novel, there's no way that's true. Not a visual novel, a light novel.
Yeah.
Maybe in the anime they might make that choice, but how the fuck would this commenter know? But did the voices sync or something at the end, and something I missed? And
I'll be honest, I don't know. I didn't pick that up at all if that happened. I also think that's an inappropriate position to make that. So I don't know. If the anime did that, it's a bit weird. But maybe?
I assume we are going to hear the internal monologue of the 30-year-old. Well, I guess there's no way to differentiate them in the novels.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's a weird choice. Because when you make that decision to get rid of the 30-year-old, it feels like a big deal. But that big deal can never happen in the light novel. So it's like a... Yeah, that's an impossible situation. I don't know.
I didn't. Something else I thought about regarding that is like, I wonder if how different the dub would be.
Oh boy. Okay.
Not in just like Lamau, it's bad, but in like how much more effective the voice changing would be if it was like a native language and I could keep up with it more. Sure. I also think it would probably make the sex scene infinitely emotionally worse.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
I think it is. It is the fact, the more distance you put between you and what's actually going on, the more you divorce it from reality, is the more you can accept it, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So then Rudy wakes up, takes his first step beyond his isolation and depression and into the next chapter of his life. And then we get I have a few notes. We also get a post-credit scene of a woman. Did you watch the post-credit scene?
Yeah, I always watch the whole ED of everything I watch, EliteAri, and the whole OP. You fucking hack fraud.
So we get a post-credit scene. Oh, you describe it. Go ahead. Oh, okay.
I don't remember it all. Okay. I remember watching it. I remember there being one, but I don't remember it at all.
Okay, we get a woman with blonde hair seemingly recruiting people, asking a person with white hair and elf-like ears about Rudy as Grey Rat. Who do you think that could be, Kyle? Do you think that's anyone we know or a new character?
Yes, we saw her when we were getting decapitated, and now she's the mentor and something. She seems older than Eris, which is weird. Maybe she grew up. Those people grow up faster when you're the reincarnation of that other bloke that I was talking about before.
True, Laplace.
Her hair is silver. Did she dye it because she's scared of being accused of being a spurt or something? We don't know where her parents are. Something else is familiar about the rest of them. Maybe it was from an EliteAri video, but I cannot recall right now. We never met an old woman that seems really evil but ends up being good, so that's still a plot line that has to come. True. Well, he says, like maybe we did already meet her.
I wonder if I don't know if there's any light novel readers here. I don't even think a light novel reader would pick up on what I just said. Maybe. I don't know. Go ahead. Keep going.
Well, I don't know. Those characters look familiar. Right. I don't remember if they're in the show or.
All right.
Well, they're recruiting her for something.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's much you can speculate on. Yeah.
Well, it seems like Sylphie is close because that's where they took the grandfather to be executed. So I don't know if everybody got teleported in the area because Ghislaine was also close by, but they could have just been teleported close by to be. because that whole area is destroyed, but wherever Paul's brother, who's running shit, has to be running shit from somewhere.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the whole kingdom got blown up. I don't remember what the Ashura kingdom or whatever the fuck, how big it is,
Yeah.
or where they were, or what that city was called, or
Yeah, so I think I can clarify now because I don't think we get. It should know it at this point, I think, which is that it was just the Fittoa region, which is a small, very. It's like a tiny little village, not a village, but a tiny little city, basically in the Azra Kingdom. So it's a small part. It would be like if like Sydney or something got wiped out. Probably smaller than that, honestly.
Oh, it'd be great.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
hate New
There
South
probably are a
Wales.
lot of people in this world who are like, oh, Fittoa, what a we don't like Fittoa. Who knows? Maybe they were happy. Okay, so
Oh, we didn't say is Philip and whatever the mother's name is actually dead.
yeah, they are. I know as much as you,
Crazy.
but the only reason I say that is because Ghislaine said that she confirmed and she saw that they were dead.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I had convinced myself at some point that Philip wasn't dead in this recording, but I guess
Okay. I mean, yeah, we'll see.
But I did forget that she said she saw the bodies or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
It is interesting that like that is an impactful death, I think, just because they were like plotting stuff and
Yeah.
it feels like yeah. It's like, man, they're fucking dead, Lamau. Well.
It is interesting, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to say anything. All right. So we need to talk about, which we haven't talked about at all. There's two motifs, all right, in these episodes. Starting with Rudius's dream he has with everyone around him. And that's the spilled wine dripping, and the cup like falling into it when he has sex, and being absorbed by it. And the bubbling bubbles of like white bubbles in the black void. So what do you think's going on with those? They stick out to you, I guess, like they did to me.
Yeah, I remember noticing them. The cup one was at the beginning of the episode after the fight one, right? So
It was
initially you're
in
like,
his
oh, it's
dream, yeah.
blood. Yeah, but then it's wine. So initially it was blood, and then I don't know, maybe it was hymen blood, Lamau or something. But then the
Yeah,
cup going into it, I don't know, it looked pretty cool. That was a cool visual thingy.
I agree. I also don't have a very strong take on this, but it is
I
an
didn't think
interesting
about
thing to
it.
add. I guess my
Um,
thing I wrote down about it was that Rudius has his dream, and the dream is about everything that everything and everyone that Rudy holds dear and wishes to see when he returns to Fittoa. Like he has Rudyard and Ghislaine talking to each other, Soros, Philip, and everyone else basically.
oh
And all his family is there with like the baby Norn and Aisha and everything. But I
yeah,
think the
forgot
wine
about
is
that.
him slowly realizing that this isn't going to happen, and at the same time he's scared that he's going to lose everyone because of his run-in with Orsted and all that. So I feel
There
like
was
this
spilled
growing
wine
puddle.
thing
Yeah,
earlier in the season, right? At some point at one of those dinners or something.
I actually don't remember. I don't know. I can't. Nothing's coming to mind.
I
I don't
don't
think so.
remember either.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's just his growing fear of losing people. Is that what that red wine is? And the bubbles, I think, are just. I think it's the actual wine glass trapped in that black void of the actual puddle of wine. And I think it's just symbolizing his depression and isolation and all that.
Yeah, he's suffocating under his depression, bro, and he's about to break to the surface.
Yeah. Never seen that one before, right? That's not generic. So what else is
Kafka had
there?
bubbles too, remember that?
Who?
Kafka,
Who's
that
that?
berserker we were talking about.
Oh, okay. So Rudy trying nullify magic. What about that? The beaver bird things in the sky comparison to episode 1. That was cool.
Those are
Rudy.
definitely things I've seen in other things before. Flying rat things with the thingies on the things.
Yep,
That's
love them.
definitely a reference to something. But that's
Yeah,
like a
probably
reference
Avatar:
and
The
not a
Last Airbender. Yeah.
story trope.
Rudy. So
Avatar sucks.
should we really talk more about Rudy? There's a lot of stuff. So he's lost his confidence after Orsted. He basically when Rudyard is leaving, he is basically at his lowest, not his lowest mentally, but lowest confidence, where he's like, I didn't do anything, it was all the man god. And then Rudyard reassures him that it was him. Powerful stuff. Eris said that. Oh, you mentioned we have accepted mediocrity. Anything to say about that? That was your point.
Oh yeah, that was just bad CGI shots, and I thought it'd be funny to bring that up and be like, haha, B was right. We have accepted mediocrity.
Right. Okay.
Because remember that part in that video
Yeah,
where
I do
she
remember
talked
the
about
dumbest
bad
point.
CGI
Yeah.
shots?
A few motifs. We talked about the wine and the black bubbles. Eris we've talked about. Rudy we talked about. Kisharika we talked about. Oh, the grain in the flashbacks and stuff. Did you notice
Oh, I
that there
still
was
haven't
no
noticed
grain?
it, no.
Okay, interesting. It's very clear, and it is. I don't remember if I told you why. Well, the interpretation I heard about it, but
You did, but I forgot it already.
yeah, basically this cool video. Was it like why is Mushoku Tensei so grainy or something? Talking about how Rudy doesn't see his present life as reality yet. He sees it as like this dream he's having, and that's why there's grain in it. And when you see the flashbacks, there's no grain because that's like what he associates with his real life, you know. So interesting. It's not. They don't confirm that. I think the director even said that like it's just to replicate old looking anime, but I think it's a cool interpretation. But anything next we're gonna go to the OVA, so last we're gonna go to the OVA, I guess. So if
oh my god, I forgot we still have to go over the fucking
I
OVA.
know. We'll speed up. Okay, there's nothing. I don't really have much to say. What do you think about
I gotta be up in 4 hours.
The opening scene was cool. It was like stick figure people. Interesting. Like nothing we'd seen so far. What do you think about that?
Oh yeah, that was really cool. That was coolest visual thing that they did. But it was the backstory for Cliff or whatever the fuck his name is, I assume.
Indeed. He was born.
He seems to have gotten. He got Serpicoed. He got picked out of nowhere on the street and then given like a staff and stuff. And he works for a Pope or something that ties into it probably somehow.
Yeah, and he finds joy in being admired for his magic, basically. Like he got a big ego from learning magic.
Though I couldn't tell if he was playing a character the whole time in this episode or if that was genuine.
Sure, right. What a shame we'll never see him again, Kyle. We'll never know. Yeah, Cliff and Eris. We get the Goblin slaying adventure. That was great. Animation was cool. Did you ever think we'd see the Goblins, Kyle?
Well, yeah, because I scrolled down and read the title. And
what a shame.
Like, oh, the OVA is a shitty filler episode. And it didn't turn out to be that shitty or filler.
Yeah,
we didn't fight goblins for that long. I was scared.
So basically,
cool.
we run into Therese Latreia.
The receptionist had massive tits. You see that?
I don't even remember. No.
At the Adventurers Guild?
No, I don't actually remember, but I believe you. The only one I remember is the one with 3 boobs in the Rikarasu or whatever.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yep. So Claire Latreia of the Temple Knights is guarding the blessed child of Millis, who is against the Pope's assassins. So interesting. It's basically setting up.
But she's actually the evilest one because she hates demons or something.
True.
Or
Yeah.
the people controlling it.
The Pope's faction wants to coexist with the demons, while the Temple Knights and the Blessed Child faction want to drive them out, basically.
I wonder what the Pope thinks about the Eris and Mushoku Tensei. That was a church pedophilia joke.
Yeah.
If you didn't get that one, EliteAri.
Well, if we're talking about in-universe, I think, like, no one would have any issue. I think Paul would probably cheer it on or something. Like, there's... In-universe, it's a very different thing to comparing it to us.
Wait, I said Pope, not Paul, right?
Yeah, I know. I was just making a comparison to people around Rudy. Yeah, I guess that's really it. There was cool intro stuff, and where do you think Cliff is going? You think we'll ever see Cliff again? I don't know.
I wonder, I wonder.
Yep. All right. So, do you want to go over light novel things, or should we?
Yeah, do it. We still got to do
right.
tier list too.
I'll go over this as quick as I can for you, Kyle, alright? So you can sleep. Number 1, there is no question that I prefer the light novel, alright? However, it's a great adaptation. Turning point 2, have I said about this? When Rudy shoots... Oh, no, when Rudy shoots it, he basically shoots that big fireball, remember? And then he, like, fades out into unconscious. In the light novel, the last thing after he does the fireball, when he's fading into unconsciousness, the last thing he tries is the paralyzing beast person yell. Which is something that he was trying to replicate when he was with the beast people. You know the one that like they yelled at him and he like froze and passed out when he was like with the sacred beast? He tried to do that. Do you know what I'm talking about? Not really,
but I believe you.
He was like in the dungeon with the kidnappers, and when there was a misunderstanding and they yelled at him.
Yeah,
they
did freeze him somehow, I do.
Yeah, so he tried to do that against Orsted, but he couldn't. There's the backstory with Rujerd we talked about, the Shiera Viera we talked about already. the 7 great powers. Oh, so this is something that wasn't mentioned explicitly, but the 7 great power stones are automatically updated, which is interesting. And also we also don't get any of this at all, but when you go to an adventurers guild, they give you like this stone kind of tablet kind of thing, and it has your guild's name on it and like their rank and everything, and that also automatically updates. So it's interesting technology behind the magic in this world. And then the last thing is about characterization for Paul in that point of view chapter I was talking about. So let me just read it basically. So basically we learn about his backstory with Lilia, his upbringing where he never got the chance to show the senior students he was studying with big egos that he was better than them. He says, I eventually lost my patience with their bullshit, slept with Lilia out of spite, and ran away in the night. I had been looking to get with her for a while, but in that moment, all I wanted was to make a mess of something they all treasured. But taking out my frustration on Lilia like that wasn't exactly my finest hour. So that's some direct thing he addressed there in the light novel. He also realizes... Yeah, he also, during the montage there, he realizes that he has a chance to make Norn think of him as like the greatest man in the world, but he chooses not to do that because that's what his dad did to him. And we also get some info on Norn and Aisha. So we learn that Aisha learns very quickly, and Paul is worried that there's something wrong with Norn and her like learning ability and all that. But he doesn't care if there's an issue with her learning, basically. He just cares that she's going to grow up in the shadow of like 2 greater siblings with like Aisha the genius and Rudy the mega genius. I don't know. So he's worried about that. And then we get this.
Aisha's smarter than Rudy. Fuck you.
Maybe, yeah. So then we also get the final amazing line here, Kyle, all right? Chatting with my daughter was always so fun. Norn was the light of my life. I'm like, oh, how cute.
Somebody's dying.
Norn was like, no, when he's reflecting on the times they spent traveling after the teleportation incident, basically. So yeah, I guess that's it. Any predictions before we go into the tier list? What's going to happen in season 2?
Well, we're going to go after Zenith. I don't know who's got her or something.
Are you going to watch the trailer for season 2, or are you going to avoid it?
Oh, I'll watch it, sure. Send it to me next time. You should react to it on stream,
right? That'd be great, yeah.
Yes. I don't know. We'll fight Lapidus in season 7 or some shit. And find out about this dude in Shadow and this prick in the mask we never got any follow-up on. Yeah. And hey, this girl also has a mask on. True. Crazy.
All right. Well, then I should tell everyone here, I guess, listening, that no matter what, at the bare minimum, me and Jarky Bacon are going to be talking about season 2 when that comes out. I'm not sure if it'll be episode by episode or like mini batches or something. We'll see. And of course, Kyle can join if he chooses to actually watch season 2. So we'll see.
And how long until this fucking thing comes out?
So it comes out July 2nd. So we got like a little less than a month till it comes out.
Oh my goodness.
And also, I'll probably read through the light novel. Maybe I'll make a video series about it, or maybe I'll just make scripted videos about it. But I'm probably feeling like I'll read through it again. So yeah, tier list, Kyle.
Okay, did you look at it yet?
Wait, let me open it up.
We already spoiled most of it.
Let me zoom in. Oh my goodness, beautiful. Look at this. Except for Therese being in nothing to say, alright. Even though you could be putting it there. Let's see, Aisha, Eris, Roxy, and Kishirika. All in S tier, beautiful. Is it ordered? I guess it would be because you got Aisha and Eris, yeah.
Yeah, nice. It's got the smart one, the mean one, the nice one, I guess, and the crazy one.
Love it.
And then Rudius is A, I guess. Then we got this Rujard thing. Yep. Elaine, Gangbang Girl.
Oh, Elaine, I love it. Orsted, cool.
And the cute dog. Now, I didn't know where to put this fucking Orsted dude. Putting him in S tier made me seem lame. I thought that was cringe.
But he's so cool.
But yeah. But I bet all the people I don't like him too. So he's only A tier.
Right.
Then we got the rapey grandpa that was kind of cool sometimes. The figure dude. Geese was good sometimes. Then we put the parents in the correct order. Lily is cooler than Zenith, who isn't too much of a character. And then we got Paul. He's probably raping too, so we can't like him too much. The man god's a little weird. Selfie's cute, I guess, but also who cares? Though she's doing some stuff now, so she'll probably be more interesting. Hilda was a hot redhead, and she was mean sometimes, so I liked her decently enough. Gallus was a cool fight. Ginger
Mm.
was kind of cute. Talhan's okay. This boy girl Kurt that I can't figure out. I like the design.
Mm.
Tona was fighting with Eris at times. She was kind of cute. We got the dumb horse. Norn is a whatever. I guess she's cute sometimes. Pax, I didn't want to put nothing to say, but I didn't want to say I liked him. So
Yep.
here he is. I don't know why he's above Philip. Philip's kind of all right. Then we got Roxy's parents, sure. Then we got the other bunny girl that doesn't fight.
Bunny girl, she's
And then
a
we
dog
got
girl, right?
dog, whatever. Then we've got Mask dude that fought that we didn't get any follow up on. Alphonse, who I forgot about. Four Arms, the bartender, Blaze, Blessed Child, Cliff. Now this was when I hadn't watched the OVA yet, so I don't know. They'd probably be in C tier and most of these characters.
Right.
Edna, who I didn't remember when I was making the tier list, but I just remembered as the teacher.
Yep.
She's nothing really to say. The elder dude, the fighting dude. I don't know. He kind of annoyed me. Then we got Nanahoshi, who was cool, but we don't really know anything about. And then Viviera, which I assume is the titty girl or the titty girl's sister.
Yep. All right. Well done.
What a
I think
tier
it's just
list.
a very interesting tier list, yeah. But that's it. We did it. Probably our longest recording session to date.
Probably about 4 hours 15 or something. I don't
Something
remember
like
how long
that.
the longest Black Sails one was.
Yep. But yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. I hope you struggled through all of the frustrations and the enjoyments and it all worked
And
out.
fuck you.